I don't think it would matter.
If you're ready.
No, where those minutes are.
Well, you can probably give them all to Markieff Morris and it won't matter.
Yeah.
Like all 20.
Okay.
Or whatever you had Watanabe at.
Yeah, 19.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, November 22nd. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by BetMGM. 4-game slate today, looking a little bit different than it did earlier this morning. Lots more to talk about. It's a fun slate. It's a weird slate. FanDuel's pricing is insane. Was that me that glitched out? Did I glitch out to you guys? Okay. My computer changed over from light mode to dark mode for nighttime. I don't know if that was the reason that it happened. Didn't like that though. When I started twitching on the screen in front of my own face. Not fun. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, fun slate.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. For a 4-gamer, it's pretty fun. There's some moving parts. There's several very shorthanded teams, potentially one more depending on John Morant news. But yeah, it's nice. Like I don't think the slate would be nearly as fun if you didn't have both of Denver and Philly. Like if you just had Denver or you just had Philly, I think the slate would kind of suck. But having both, I think makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah. Plus we get the Ben Simmons back in Philly scenario. All kinds of good stuff going on today. I think we have a lot to talk about. I don't want to dilly-dally at all. So I think we just get into it.
Sure.
All right, we're going to kick it off. Brooklyn Nets. And we're kicking it off with a piece of news right out of the gate. Nick Claxton will play. Yuta Watanabe out. And we got word earlier today that Ben Simmons is likely to start. Let's start with the center scenario now, because it's a little bit different with Ben Simmons starting, Nick Claxton backing him up. Do you think these two guys play together today?
Yes. I'm not overly confident in it, but the reason I lean yes is that they have been doing it recently. In the last game where they both played, they combined for, I think it was like 8 minutes, 7 minutes. They combined for like 55 minutes. Or they played alongside each other for 7 or 8 minutes. They combined for like 55. So there's that. And then also Watanabe being out. Also, I'd just kind of be surprised if Claxton, I'd said this morning that maybe it happens sooner than later, but at this point, I'd be kind of surprised if Claxton just is suddenly playing 14 or 16 minutes a game. And if they're not sharing the floor, that's what's happening, because I think we've moved beyond Ben Simmons playing 20 to 24 minutes ever, barring foul trouble or anything. So I think the options are either they play next to each other or Nick Claxton is now a 14 to 16 minute guy. I don't think they're at that point yet. And especially with Watanabe out, if you don't give them any minutes alongside each other, you're just talking about more Markieff Morris or Cam Thomas or whatever it may be. And so I don't think they're doing that yet.
I agree for the most part. My only concern is just how bad they were, which we talked about earlier on the strategy show, that they are just not working together. Like Nick Claxton's good. He should be playing, 20 minutes a game at a minimum somewhere. Solid defensively, super efficient for whatever he has to do on offense. Elite rebounder, elite shot blocker. I just don't know how well that's going to ultimately play alongside Ben Simmons. So how many minutes are you willing to give to Nick Claxton today?
I went 24 for Claxton, 33 for Simmons.
Okay.
You could certainly go a little bit less on Claxton if you wanted to.
I went 32 and 24, so we are essentially in lockstep here. That said, we've got $5,400 Nick Claxton on DraftKings center only, $5,500 on FanDuel center only, pulling minimal ownership at best. Do you have any interest in going to Claxton?
I mean, it's a 4-game slate, so he probably lands in some lineups here and there. I mean, if Ben Simmons were to get in foul trouble, for example, that's a really easy path to more minutes for Claxton. He shouldn't be popular, I don't think. And right now we have him getting 2% ownership. Like at that number, sure, but I don't think he's a great player or anything.
All right, so then let's talk about Simmons, who is a different play on DraftKings in comparison to FanDuel. I'm also shocked by our ownership right now. 32% on Simmons on DK, I think makes sense. Power forward center, 6,300. This is a guy that's a fantasy point per minute guy. I have no real qualms with that. I think it's a little high, but at the same time, makes sense to me. He's still pulling 20% ownership on FanDuel. Point guard power forward, 7,800. I don't love that price at all for Ben Simmons. It's pretty easy for me to want to get away from him there, but what do you do on DK given that ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ownership on DraftKings is a little high as well, but obviously it's easier to get to him. You have power forward and center eligibility. This isn't the best center slate, especially if Philadelphia doesn't start one of their centers. That's going to open up even more. So Simmons looks good to me on DraftKings. Like I said, I think you go 32, 33 minutes there. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. And you're not talking about a Joel Embiid led Philadelphia defense either. Like there's obviously going to be less foul risk for Ben Simmons when you're dealing with some combination of Montrezl Harrell, PJ Tucker, Paul Reed than when you're dealing with Joel Embiid. So that makes me feel a little bit better as well. Played nearly 35 minutes last game without Claxton, played like 32 or 33 before that. He's averaging 32 and a half minutes per game as a starter this year. So I think the ownership is probably a little bit high, but I also understand why he's getting a good amount of it. I do think it's much more difficult to get there on FanDuel because not only is he more expensive, the scoring is not Ben Simmons friendly when you don't get any sort of double-double, triple-double bonus. You do lose a full point for turnovers. Like part of the appeal to him is that he's going to have the ball in his hand, or you expect him to have the ball in his hands a lot. And that obviously comes with more downside risk on FanDuel.
He also loses the 3-point bonus.
Yeah, which is massive for him, obviously.
I wonder what I actually project him from 3, because it's something, but it's probably like as negligible as it gets for any sort of NBA player. Yeah, I hope that he's 20% owned on FanDuel today. I hope that number is spot on. It's just not going to be a place I get to. If $7,800 Ben Simmons beats me on FanDuel today, it'll probably be a really fun thing to see because it's going to be a monster game. He's going to have to go for probably 50 fantasy points. I'd like to see it.
Think about how miserable off he's going to be if Simmons just throws up like a 30, 15, 10 triple-double.
With threes.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if he came out and shot like 12 of them today?
Right. Like he's just like quietly been practicing them and just like not pulled it out in a game yet.
Shushing everybody in the crowd and stuff. I'd give anything for it.
Paying off beat writers.
I'd give anything for it. Okay, so that's Simmons. That's Claxton. That's the backcourt or the front court here for Brooklyn. Durant, 11-2 on DK, 11K on FanDuel. We have a 23% ownership on FanDuel today, too. I don't get the appeal for Kevin Durant here with Kyrie Irving back.
I mean, I still do because it's Kevin Durant, and I think FanDuel, it's probably just a little bit easier to get there just because it typically is on FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, he's still expensive, and he probably was correctly priced for Kyrie being out. Like, he's still got a 32% usage rate this year in the games that he's played with Kyrie and Simmons. He's still averaging 37 minutes per game. The assist percentage drops off down to about 19%. He's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. So there is still clearly appeal there, but it's kind of tough because we have a lot of underpriced guys on this slate, but it's more so mid-range than cheap value. It's guys where their prices have adjusted at least a little bit. And so it makes it a little bit harder to truly go stars and scrubs. And yeah, I just ran just like a quick version of a sim and on DraftKings got to like 12% Durant. So
I got 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly Kevin Durant can still break the slate. He's Kevin Durant, but I don't think he's underpriced.
No, and I just look at it on FanDuel now. And like, if he's in 20+% of these lineups, we now have potentially Ja Morant. We have AD without LeBron James, who's been massive this season. Is there enough value to get to KD? Sure. Can he hang 65 on the B list Sixers? Sure. They're more defensive oriented than they normally are aside from Embiid, but I just don't know if I'm going to be getting to all that much Brooklyn. The only piece that I think actually stands out for Brooklyn is 8,800 on FanDuel, Kyrie Irving. To me, that's just slightly too low of a price tag for him. 9,400 on DraftKings is appealing in GPPs if he's 2.5% owned, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I got him showing up like 7% of the time. He's 2.5% owned. So it's one of those where he's going under owned, I think, but he's also not going to be a priority for you just because, for example, you have Devin Booker at that same price point that you can just very easily project for several minutes more than Kyrie. There's a chance that Kyrie just goes out there and plays 36, 37 today, but that chance is lower than that Devin Booker does it. And obviously, they both give you that same sort of ceiling. You might have Ja Morant back. You have all these other guys to get to as well. So I think he's a low probability play. But anytime you're getting Kyrie on a 4-game slate at no ownership, and you do have the volatility where, we talked about it this morning. He played 26 minutes or so in his first game back, and he did miss some time, clearly, but it wasn't an injury. There's no reason to think that he wasn't doing like cardio and in the gym and anything. Like, I don't think he was just sitting around drinking and not doing anything, physical. So I don't expect it to take very long for him to get back to playing huge minutes, whether he kind of, I think it's basically either he plays like 34 minutes tonight and then goes back to playing 37, 38 next game, or he just plays 37, 38 tonight.
We're on the same page here. Is there anything viable then for the rest of Brooklyn? Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Seth Curry, anything that shows up now with Watanabe out. Watanabe, by the way, shooting guard eligible on FanDuel.
Nothing that I would prioritize. Royce O'Neal's probably going to play 35, 36 minutes. He's just going to show up in some lineups at 5,500 because he's out there for so many minutes. I think that makes sense. He's pulling 13% ownership. Perfectly fine with that. Joe Harris and Seth Curry not getting any ownership. They're both really cheap. I'm not really interested either. I have Harris in for 28 minutes. I have Curry in for 26. Not any level of a priority there.
Okay. I don't have anything else here to touch on for Brooklyn. I don't think we're missing anything. Do you have anything else?
No.
Now we go to the Philly side of this one. Little bit more complicated, but some of it's awesome. We have, this is insane. No Tyrese Maxey, no James Harden, no Joel Embiid. We're slowly but surely just losing everybody that's got a pulse for this team. Tobias Harris is probable. Matisse Thybulle is not on the injury report. Furkan Korkmaz is probable. Michael Foster is available. I don't know who or what that is. But that is just a designation that I got to give you guys. And Jaden Springer is out. Milton, Harris, all something around 30% owned, depending on which site we're looking at. You can bounce either direction. They're the guys that are going to soak up everything. Minutes, usage. These are the three guys. Do you have anything specific you want to go at for any of those guys?
All three look really good. I do think that the price tag on Shake Milton is a little behind that of Harris and Melton. You just have Milton still sitting at 5,300. This is somebody that, barring foul trouble or injury, is very likely to give you 36 minutes or so and give you, close to a fantasy point per minute. So I think he's a little bit more underpriced than the other two, but I still think the other two offer some value as well. You're missing so much usage when you take Harden, Maxey, and Embiid off the floor. You've seen it even with Harden out, where Embiid has like a 40% usage rate, Maxey's at 27, 28%. They're just doing everything, and so you take both those guys off the floor, and you have a history of Milton being a solid enough point per minute guy. D'Anthony Melton, going back to his time in Memphis, was always around a fantasy point per minute. It was just a matter of, is he going to get the minutes? And here he clearly is. Tobias Harris, you've seen him sort of take a step back this year in terms of usage because Tyrese Maxey has taken on such a big role, but there's no reason to think that Harris isn't going to have a massive usage rate in this game with those three guys out. So all three of these guys I think look really good. Milton just probably a little bit more mispriced.
Okay, so those three guys are done. What is your expected starting lineup for the Philadelphia 76ers?
Milton, Melton, House, Harris, Tucker.
Okay. Would you rather get to PJ Tucker or Daniel House today?
I'm getting to more House.
Okay. I think I like Tucker more.
I also projected House for several more minutes.
Okay. How many minutes did you give to House?
36.
Holy hell. Okay, so you and I are on very different paths for Daniel House right now. Because I have 30. Talk to me about 36.
He played like 38 minutes last game.
Yes, that is a game 39. That did not include Tobias Harris.
But it included Joel Embiid.
Sure. Different guys.
But for the purpose of what I think they're going to do with their rotation tonight, if Daniel House is starting, I think they're playing small lineups most of the game and that he's going to play a lot, because I don't think Korkmaz is a big piece of this rotation right now.
Yeah, agreed.
They've made it very clear that Matisse Thybulle is not a big piece of this rotation right now. So agreed. If they go with the starting lineup that has House and Tucker, I'm viewing this very similarly to the last game where they're using Tucker primarily as their center. I think, clearly he's going to play less than Embiid, and so you're going to get a little bit more for Reed and Harrell. But if they go that route, I think they're just playing a lot of small lineups. And that was a game, their last game was one where House played 39 minutes and didn't even close. So I think that there's just room there for him to play even more than 36 potentially.
What did you project George Niang for then?
26.
Okay. Interesting. Are you, so 4,600 on DraftKings is wildly unappealing for George Niang, 5K on FanDuel, so you can get blocked out of that pretty quickly. So I assume you're going to be over the field on Daniel House today at that projection.
Yeah, if he's gonna be 8%, then probably. I
Okay.
mean, like maybe I should cut because I did probably go a little bit low on Tucker. I'm always hesitant to give him a lot of minutes because just he's so frequently in foul trouble or just something. But I think maybe I can go 34-34 instead of 36-32. But
Yeah, I had 32 for Tucker, and now I just gave 2 more to House just because we were at such a giant gap. And like I agree, like we did see those minutes. I just think he's more affected by Harris being back than I guess you did. But even at 32, I like Daniel House today. I think he looks totally fine. I'm surprised that PJ Tucker's getting nothing today.
yeah, I mean, in 32 minutes, I didn't really think he should. If I go to 34, then maybe.
Really? Insane. He shows up so much more for me than I would ever want to happen. Now, I'm only getting like 10% on FanDuel. I don't want it to sound crazy here, but
In 32 minutes, I have him projected for 18.7 DraftKings points.
okay, I got him at 21.5 in 32 minutes.
Yeah.
0.67. Oh, God. I mean, obviously, that is a gigantic increase on his role this season. I'm hoping it just... Where'd the usage go from last year, man? This is a guy that was getting some shots up last season. It's gone now. Okay, so obviously you are at least mildly behind Daniel House and less so on PJ Tucker. George Niang's price probably a little bit too prohibitive. My filler arc wanted to know if we want, or would you rather go to Niang or Torrey Craig? So great work there.
Craig.
I mean, yeah, it's Torrey Craig for me there, just because of Niang's price and the fact that Torrey Craig is going to should play way more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 5 games without Johnson or Shamet. He's averaging like 30 minutes per game. I don't want to say the cap on Niang, but I think things kind of have to break right for Niang to get there.
This is Josh the only person that doesn't know how the Philadelphia rotation works? What rotation? We're missing 120 of the minutes that they normally play. What are we talking about here?
You didn't see the other 5 games this year they played without Harden, Maxey, and Embiid?
There's no confidence in this lineup. Daniel House does not have to be in that starting lineup today.
No, the last time we were in this situation, it was Montrezl Harrell instead.
Yeah. So let's pump the brakes there, champ. Olrat wants to know if he should play Korkmaz. No.
Unless he's starting.
Yeah. Which would be a pretty big surprise. Wouldn't be ready for that one. And then William Collins wanted to know House or Harris. I don't even know how to answer that.
I mean, they're totally different prices and plays. I would hope that I have more Harris than House.
Yeah. And then would you start Claxton on FanDuel? No.
Can you bench him on FanDuel?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
So did you go 36 minutes for Milton, Harris?
34s for all 3.
Okay. Yeah, I went 36.
It's not making much of a difference for what I've got going on here. So, I mean, they are 7.5 point dogs in Philadelphia. I didn't want to really crank it the whole way.
I think they could play more.
So do I. It's not out of the realm of possibility that by the time I get closer to lock that I'm at 35 for all of them.
Yeah. My thought process was just Milton played 38 last game. Melton played 37. There's more minutes to go around. And again, if we get the small starting lineup, then I think it has a trickle down effect to all of the guards and wings. So I don't know. I was pretty comfortable going there. Harris was the one I was a little bit more nervous just because he's been out. But yeah.
Let's talk through the bigs. Paul Reed, Montrezl Harrell. People at the chat's losing their mind. Nobody knows what's going on here. I'm of the assumption that you can get to some Paul Reed on DraftKings because he's 3,700, and that's just a price that works. You can just back into it. He's a great per minute guy. Paul Reed and Montrezl Harrell, unless one of those two gets into a starting lineup, are to me basically unplayable on FanDuel at 5K and 5,300. How are you handling Reed, Harrell, obviously Tucker to a degree? Do you see yourself getting to any of these guys?
So I think this is really complicated to talk about right now, and I think it's going to be really easy once we get a Philadelphia starting lineup. The way I'm viewing this is most likely, I think you get PJ Tucker starting at center. If it's not PJ Tucker, what they did last game that Embiid was out was they went with Harrell. And so that would be a starting lineup where Daniel House does not start and Montrezl Harrell does. In that game, Montrezl Harrell played about 29 minutes. Paul Reed played about 18. So you basically got a 48-minute split between those guys. Danuel House was not active in that game. So that's another reason I think you're going to get the small lineup here, in addition to the fact you're talking about a Ben Simmons at center, front court on the other side. But so if we get a starting lineup where PJ Tucker is the center, I think the wings and guards are playing a lot of minutes. I think that you're probably getting like 16-ish minutes from Paul Reed. You're probably getting like a literal handful of minutes from Montrezl Harrell. So in that situation, I still think you can get to some Paul Reed just because it's a 4-game slate and he's cheap and he's a good point per minute guy. I wouldn't mess with Harrell. And again, like I would like Danuel House. I would like PJ Tucker more than if he's not starting at center. Still wouldn't love him. If Montrezl Harrell starts at center, I think you can project a lot of minutes for Montrezl Harrell, and he's going to look like a good play. And you can also project more minutes for Paul Reed than if PJ Tucker is starting at center. The reason being that they're signaling there that they are going to go with an actual center, and it's much more likely you get some sort of 48-minute split or close to it between Harrell and Reed. If Reed is starting at center, just jam as much Paul Reed as you can. But that's kind of the way I see it. If they start a center, Harrell and Reed both are more appealing. If they start PJ Tucker, I'm still fine playing some Paul Reed, but I think it's a bad sign for both Reed and Harrell.
What a fascinating team for today.
I'm glad it's the first game of the night.
You mean both. All right. Who's the starter for Philadelphia where we get this lineup and we're like, all right. Is that Korkmaz? Yeah. I can see it being Thibault.
I'll say, I mean, they were using Thibault earlier in the year. That was when House was out. And then they went to the most recent time they went to Harrell. But last year Korkmaz was always the one last year that you would just randomly get thrown into the starting lineup.
It wasn't even a week. It was 8 days ago that Matisse Thybulle played 28 minutes and 30 minutes in back-to-back games. He followed that up with 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doc. Anything else here for Philly? Make sure you're watching Live Before Lock, folks.
No, I mean, I think that covers it. It's just really dependent on what this starting lineup is.
Yes, it is. Alrighty, guys, hit that like button if you're here. 2,200 people in here, 212 likes. It's a great ratio, honestly, for 2,000 plus people, but I think we can make it a lot better than that. So go ahead, hit that thumbs up. NBA Live Before Lock coming up after this one, 6 p.m., taking you all the way up until 7:30. You guys are going to have some fun today, man. It's a great slate, but you don't want to miss Live Before Lock because we are going to be getting some news for Philadelphia that you are going to want to be a part of. At 7 o'clock, when we get that lineup, it's going to be very, very important. Tonight, you're getting Greg, and Eric is back from France. So you guys we can make all the jokes for Eric for most of the show. That'll be fun.
It's real catch-22. You need to watch the show for the Sixers, but that means you have to see Eric.
Did you see Spag's French Eric impression on... Yeah, surely you didn't.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, he has Puppet Lindquist, and he did the French accent for Eric at the end of our show for Sunday, which was really uncomfortable for me. The Sacramento Kings are, I don't know, like a 1.5 dogs right now. It's all up in the air, sort of, against Memphis.
Oh, sorry. One other. So I just started kind of rerunning stuff with 34 minutes apiece for Tucker and House, and now I'm more in line with the field. Still a little bit over on House, but not double.
Are you getting Tucker?
Like 4.5%.
Jesus. Okay. Sacramento Kings. They are, oddly enough, one of the easier teams to talk about. I don't really think that we're going to have to dig into this one all that much. Everybody's available, and they don't really mess around with their rotation. No one's getting any legitimate ownership. It's a couple 10%ers around here. Do you have priorities coming from Sacramento? Anything you really want to get to here?
Not priorities, just because Philadelphia and Denver really dominate that conversation. One thing that I think is really interesting, though, and I don't know how much I buy into it. It makes me kind of nervous, but at the same time, I think it makes some sense. We had seen the Kings for a week or so stretch where Malik Monk was sort of just finding his way into the closing lineup over one of Herter, Barnes, Murray, like every game. And you kind of looked at it and you're like, all right, well, I don't think this continues forever, but also it just keeps happening. And it kind of was making it so like you couldn't project more than 32 minutes for Herter or Murray or Barnes. Last game, we had Terrence Davis basically kicked out of the rotation. And if they're only going to give him like 6 minutes or so, you can get back, I think, to going 34 minutes on Herter, Barnes, Murray, and still have Malik Monk projected for like 22, which is a very reasonable projection for him. It does kind of account for the fact that some games he's going to play 18 to 20, other games he's going to play 24 to 26. So it does make me like them a little bit more. Again, there's no guarantee that they stick to that rotation today, but I think it's just one that they're going to use more frequently than not. So I have 34 minutes apiece for the starters, 35 for De'Aaron Fox. It makes all of them look okay. None of them are getting a lot of ownership, which does make them pretty appealing in tournaments. But also, there's just none of these guys that I can point to and say, oh yeah, I like them more than the pieces on Philadelphia or Denver, because that would be insane.
Yeah, I don't have much to dig into. Play some starters. You can kind of pick them at random if you want, whatever fits. I think they all look relatively similar. Don't have too much to add here. I can't believe how bad Keegan Murray has been from a DFS perspective, but certainly playable today and grades out actually really well for me.
Yeah, I mean, we have him getting about 10% ownership. He's showing up in like 15% for me.
Same, 16 for me. So you and I are on the same page on Keegan Murray on the DraftKings side. He's 5,200 on FanDuel, so significantly less interesting.
Yeah.
He's going to need every one of those 34.7 minutes that he just played.
Yeah, he's the king that I would assume I'm getting to the most, which I wish he wasn't, but there's not a big gap though. Like all of the starters are showing up between like 10 and 15% for me.
Yep, we are on the same page here. So then we can keep it moving straight through Sacramento and go to Memphis. And Memphis is a little bit different than what we talked about earlier today in that now Ja Morant has been upgraded to questionable. Jaren Jackson is in. No Desmond Bane, no Zaire Williams, but Ja Morant being questionable changes the game up here. It lowers usage rates for Dylan Brooks. It removes Tyus Jones from being a guy today. I assume you have Ja Morant in.
I do.
Looks good to me. 11% owned on DK, 20 on FanDuel. I like Ja more than I like Kevin Durant today.
So do I. I haven't projected higher, and I don't have it that close. Like I have it a couple points. If he's going to be 11% owned, I think I'm getting to a ton of Ja Morant. I went 34 minutes. I don't know exactly how healthy he is, but I do assume that if he plays, he's good to go. Especially because like he was listed as doubtful, then they upgraded him. He went through shoot around. Normally, I don't expect guys like this to be limited in this situation. I typically think that it's like he's not coming back until he's healthy. And so if he's going to be limited, it would be for cardio reasons, but he wasn't out that long. So I don't really expect him to be limited. He typically gives you around 33 minutes, but with Desmond Bane out, you're typically getting, 36-minute rotations where he either would play 36 or he would get hurt and not quite get there. But so I think going to 34 on him makes some sense here. And even doing that, he just looks really, really good for me.
Yep, I agree. What do you do with the rest of these guys now? Because Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson, Tyus Jones, all very different plays now than they were then. Brooks, 12% owned. Jaren Jackson, 14% owned. I think Jaren Jackson's getting slept on a bit on DraftKings now with Ja back. I'm still very interested there at 6,400. 8,200, I don't need it on FanDuel. Then we also have Steven Adams, 5,400 and 5,300. What are you doing with the rest of Memphis?
Yeah, after Ja, I think Jackson is the next guy for me. I have him in for 26 minutes. Obviously, you would expect a higher usage rate from him if Morant is out, but I still think that there's plenty available. You have to keep in mind that Desmond Bane has been an extremely high usage guy this year as well. So I think Jackson's still reasonably priced. Brooks becomes difficult for me to get to. I have him in for 33 minutes, which I'm not even super comfortable with how frequently he fouls. But you just like he's still going to get he's still going to have a relatively high usage rate, but you can't expect the 30 or so percent usage that you would if Morant doesn't play. Steven Adams showing up in, like 8 to 10% of my lineups makes some sense as a tournament option at low ownership. Same can be said for Brandon Clark. If something happens to Adams, you're just getting more minutes for Clark. He's now at 2% ownership, which is where he should be and is what makes him appealing in tournaments. This morning we had him in like 14, which I thought was insane, and I just wouldn't play him. So with Clark, it's a low probability thing. He averages around 20, 21 minutes. Adams averages around 27. But if Adams gets in foul trouble, then you're just getting Brandon Clark.
Let's see. Is there anything else here that I really want to touch on? I'm happy that I don't have to play 8K Dylan Brooks on FanDuel with any sort of aggressive volume like I did earlier today at 8K. I'm getting to too much Steven Adams, and I don't like it. It's a spot where I feel like I need to get to Sabonis or Adams, and I just don't know which one it's going to be. But I don't know how to shake that out. Like it's not like an actionable thing. I feel like one of those two guys is just going to be good. I'm getting to Adams, so it makes me think that it's going to be Sabonis. Anything for Conchar? Or I don't think that there's really anything else that we could talk about here for this Memphis team.
Yeah, there's nothing else I really want. I mean, Konchar's just gotten expensive. If Morant sits, he looks a little bit better, I guess, but I have him in for like 28 minutes right now, assuming Morant plays.
Okay, I have him in at 31. 28, you said, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, not that it matters. Like, I'm getting 3% John Conchar, not somebody that I'm going crazy for. Oh, he's 6,200 on DraftKings?
Yeah.
You can give him as many minutes as you want.
Pretty much.
It won't really matter. Anything else from Memphis?
I probably actually was light on Contra's minutes, but still not going to get to him on DraftKings.
Yeah. Well, once I saw the price, I didn't care to be like, well, I think you're probably like, you should go to 30. It wasn't worth the effort. If you want to take those 2 minutes from Jake LaRavia or David Roddy and get
that's
to him,
exactly
you're going
what it was. I had LaRavia. I actually knew when I did it too that I thought I'd given LaRavia a couple extra minutes, and I just didn't notice that they were Contras.
Yeah, and now suddenly you can just as equally not play John Conchar.
Exactly.
All right, BetMGM is the sponsor of this show. Got to talk about it. And this is a soccer deal. So, Adam, open your ears so you can get enlightened to the rest of the world. But for everybody else that has no idea, go ahead. What do you want? I see it.
I thought about going out again today for the games, but I didn't.
Okay. Yeah,
it's really you know I hate the sport when it's like relatively nice out for the middle of November. It's a 4-game NBA slate with a late start time, so I'm like, I have a little bit of time to kill in the afternoon, and I'm just like, yeah, I would rather just do literally anything else.
You can absolutely go to a bar with a lot of people, like with people in it, have an entertaining day, and you're like, nah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. You must really hate soccer if you don't want to go to a bar.
I chose to actively. I was even sitting around today like I am bored, and was still just like, I'm not going out to watch soccer.
Well, if you like soccer, and even if you don't, this deal is exceptional. Adam's not going to disagree that the deal's good. Sign up at BetMGM as long as you have not signed up there yet and you're in a legal betting state. As long as you bet $10 on any one of the games, pick any team that you want. Go ahead. You're good. Pick any one of them. Pick a country. You're great. You're going to be fine. Bet $10 on that team. Whether they score a goal, their opponent, or just any goal happens that day, you will get $200 in free bets. That's the only thing that I know Adam will agree with. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I can sign up for BetMGM tomorrow.
There we go. Adam, you can do that. And you can also bet $10 on a World Cup game and go watch it. Think about how great that's going to be.
Yeah, fantastic.
Do you want me to tell you what game you should watch?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Aren't there a lot of basketball games tomorrow?
There are a lot of basketball games tomorrow, but you can go to the bar at 5 a.m. if you could find one for Morocco, Croatia.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple issues with that. One, I don't think they're open, and two, I'm sure as shit not going to be awake.
Germany, Japan at 8 a.m. A lot of bad blood there. Spain,
Is
Costa
that a
Rica.
World War II joke, or is that real?
Spain, Costa Rica at 11 a.m. It's another fun one to check out. And then Belgium, Canada, 2 p.m. That's the one you should go do.
Belgium, Canada.
Belgium. That's my squad. Belgium's my FIFA squad.
No, and like I've watched soccer before. Like most years, I try and get into the World Cup, and I watch, and I'm like, all right, this is like tolerable, but this is also like the most excited I'm supposed to be for soccer, and it's still just like, I hate this.
You'll need to get ready for 4 years from now. USA is a really young squad right now, and if we get to the round of 16,
haven't we been a really young squad for like, I don't know, my whole life?
No.
I feel like it's always been like, 4 years from now.
No. Like, okay. We knew that we were at the end of our rope 8 years ago.
Okay.
And
was that like the Landon Donovan teams?
Yeah, like when Donovan was there, at the end of Donovan, Clint Dempsey, Michael Bradley type stuff, we knew there wasn't like the biggest future in the world at that point in time. Now we're super young. 4 years from now, hopefully with a little bit more experience, things will go well.
Netherlands is orange. I know that.
Netherlands is orange. Virgil van Dijk. You should watch them too. All right. The Detroit Pistons are 6-point dogs.
Are starting?
Shut up.
I haven't seen that yet.
I don't see that either.
Who the hell would he even be starting over?
Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton will both start Tuesday.
So Harris to the bench?
No, it can't be Harris. It's got to be Royce O'Neal.
I mean, that makes no sense though.
It makes more sense to me if it's Royce O'Neal than Harris. If you can't take the shooter off the
Right.
floor when you're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this,
So it just doesn't make sense.
it could be
Period.
Kyrie or Durant. That would not surprise me at all if one of these guys aren't playing now.
Oh,
I
if they're
think
not
that's a
playing,
more likely
sure.
scenario.
I thought you were saying if one of them's coming off the bench. I was like, it wouldn't surprise you if Kevin Durant's
Oh,
coming off the
no,
bench.
they're not coming off the bench. I don't think the only way that this is happening to me is if someone is out now. And I don't think you can move Joe Harris to the bench. It has to be Royce. You can't take.
So I do agree with you. Like, you need Harris out there with those guys, but I don't understand how you're benching Royce.
I mean, because he's Royce O'Neal.
Yeah, but he's not bad.
I mean, I don't think that he's suddenly going to play like 12 minutes today. But
No, I know.
maybe it's just like I don't know why they're doing this. This is stupid to me. That this team has gotten absolutely wrecked putting these two guys on the floor together.
Oh, don't worry. Brandon Katz clarified that he's not starting.
Is he in this chat?
He just showed up to say Claxton is not starting.
Oh. Well, I don't.
We are not
Have
talking
any-
about Steve Nash as a coach.
Where is this information coming from? That's what I want to find. Okay, so that came from Keith Pompey. But nobody is reporting who's not starting.
Yeah, we get it. It's not a good idea, Brandon, but they've already said it's happening.
Where do you think we're getting this information from? Just making it up?
Like, we're both very clearly confused why it's happening, and he's explaining that like it's not going to happen because it's a bad idea.
I searched for Claxton just to get to the tweets quick, and there is an NBA DFS player predictions like Twitter account. These are Nets projected minutes. How many minutes do you think this random stupid Twitter account projected for Kevin Durant to play today?
Based on your voice, 30?
42.
Oh, okay, other direction.
Oh my God. Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kyrie, Ben Simmons, Harris, O'Neal, Durant, and Claxton getting all of the minutes, with 6 going to Patty Mills and Markieff Morris. That is one rotation for sure. Please don't follow whoever the hell that person is. This is fascinating. I don't even know how to dig into that. If we get more of it, we'll touch on it again, but we got to keep it moving for Detroit.
So
Pistons. Go ahead.
Wait, so if they're starting next week, so I had said we had like 32, 33 Simmons and 24 Claxton. I'm probably going to keep Simmons the same. Are you just going to go to like 28 on Claxton?
No, because I don't think he's ever going to close.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just.
I don't think I'll move Claxton.
You're still. What did you had him at 24, right? I know I did.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I need to give him a couple extra minutes if he starts.
I don't know what to make of it. I don't think. I mean, part of me. Well, here's the real. I don't think that I'm going to change anything right now, unless we find out that the reason this is happening is because someone's out. At that point, all bets are off. But if this is just a rotational change, I can't imagine they're starting him and playing, and he's going to play 4 real rotations.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Look, we'll find out a lot more when that starting lineup actually comes out. No Cade Cunningham, no Beef Stew, no, who's the third guy? Sadiq Bey. Oh, God, sorry, Sadiq Bey. But we kind of just saw this in their game on Sunday, and I think they're actually relatively easy to project, but Boyan, Ivy, Hayes, Burks, all around 15 to 20% owned. Boyan is 40% owned on FanDuel. What are you doing with Detroit here against Denver? Slow matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a team that kind of across the board, they look decent. I don't think they look as good as Denver. I don't think they look as good as Philly, but there are missing pieces here. No Cade, no Stewart. You have on DraftKings, we talked about it this morning. I think you're kind of getting both of the centers going a little bit under-owned maybe. just because on average, I think you project around 26 minutes for Bagley, 22 for Duren, but there's going to be games where Bagley avoids foul trouble and plays close to 30. There's going to be other games where Bagley is in foul trouble and Duren plays 26 or 27. So I do sort of like both guys at their DraftKings prices. Obviously wouldn't play them together in the same lineup. Bogdanovich at 6,500 looks pretty good. He's pulling the most ownership there. Hayes, Burks are just sort of like last piece in filler type guys. I think Boyan's my favorite guy.
Yeah, I like Boyan here too. I'm never going to get anywhere near 40% Boyan on FanDuel, even at
I don't expect to get to 24% on DraftKings either.
Yeah. I think he's a good play. How many minutes did you give him? 34?
I went 32. I think I need to give him another one though.
Ooh, okay, I have him at 33. I was just guessing that you went to 34. So, yeah,
I kind of was stuck. Like, I think the right number is 33 or 34, but also I don't trust Detroit at all.
Nor do I. Well, they just have all of these like dudes on the bench that are randos. Like,
what'd you say?
I don't know how to shake out all of the like Burks, Livers, Diallo, Knox. Like any one of those random idiots can do something stupid today.
Yep.
This is a really all right. Humboldt says Joe Harris starting over Durant per RotoWire. I don't think I could ever trust that. My guess is that they made that change and Durant was the 4, and that's what overrode it. So I'm going to ignore that. That won't matter. We're going to know that
Durant's not playing, right?
Yeah, right. We're going to know that. So I don't really care. It's not worth digging in. Now, T. McBee fucking put the kibosh on that immediately. So, look, it's totally meaningless. This is a 7:30 start. I couldn't give a shit right now. It's going to come out.
Yeah, it's more just I'm really curious.
Oh, it makes no sense. No sense.
This also has an impact on the Sixers lineup potentially. Like, I think this makes it a little bit more likely that maybe they do go back to the Herald lineup.
Maybe they spread them out and bludgeon them.
Yeah, like could go either way. I just would say that the chances of that probably went up a little bit here.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It just matches up better.
Yeah.
On the Denver side, let's invest some time here because we don't have a ton to say about Lakers and Phoenix. Do we want to just get to the elephant in the room right now? Do we have to do it?
Bones?
Yeah. Per Harrison Wind earlier today, it is not looking like Bones Highland is going to be playing today. I have removed him from my projections. I believe Adam has done the same. We're looking at 10 available bodies for Denver. Bruce Brown, KCP, Porter, Gordon, DeAndre Jordan, Christian Brown, Najee, Devon Reed, Chanchar, or however the hell you say his name, and Jack White, who is a person. With Bones Highland out, it's basically
so to clarify for anybody that was half listening, Bones Highland is not currently out. He is listed as questionable, but one of Denver's main beat writers has tweeted several times today that he does not think he is going to play. So he is still questionable. He could play. Josh and I are both under the assumption that he's not going to.
Correct. At this point, Brown, KCP, Porter, Aaron Gordon, DeAndre Jordan would be my expected starting lineup, at which point I feel pretty comfortable casually saying you just jam all of these dudes as much. Like they're in everything. Not everything, but like every single one of them looks really, really, really good.
Yeah, and they're difficult to talk about. It's a really weird team. If you go back to the start of last season and you take Jokic off the floor and you take Murray off the floor, you actually get less production from Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon than their overall point per minute production this year. But it's a pretty small sample, and it's just not something I buy into. Like, you should see the usage go up here, especially if Highland is out. Highland played 35 minutes off the bench last game, and this is a 30% usage guy. If he's not going to play, and you're going to replace a nice chunk of those minutes with Christian Braun, Devon Reed, Chanchar, whoever they go to, you have to see Michael Porter Jr. shooting more, I would think. And we've also seen it in the past before Aaron Gordon came to Denver. We would have those games with Orlando where Vooch is out and Fournier was out, and Aaron Gordon made it very clear he can run the show in an NBA game and be very good at it. That's not his role. That's not his typical role in Denver. He's there to just be a defensive guy and, sort of just be a third option, fourth option offensively. Aaron Gordon can do a lot of things offensively on a basketball court. And it doesn't really show up in any sort of on-off splits we've seen with Denver so far, but I do think that there's actually a really high ceiling for him. In addition, Bruce Brown's going to look excellent. He looks really good one way or the other, and so do Porter and Gordon. But if Highland is out, it helps solidify those minutes for Brown. He's a good point per minute guy. Like, all of these guys look really good.
I'll have Bruce Brown in just about every lineup, assuming that I'm right here, or assuming that we're right here. He and Aaron Gordon are the only people that are going to have any sort of assist rate. Like, there's not another point guard anywhere sniffing this team. Aaron Gordon has been a point forward in the past. Bruce Brown is a Swiss Army knife when it comes to this kind of stuff, but nobody else is just like out there diming people up. That's not really a thing. Jack White, who obviously sounds like he would be a tiny point guard, is like 6'7" and a small forward-ish person.
Yeah. And also Ish Smith is questionable. Peyton Watson also questionable. Harrison Wynn, the Denver beat writer, is just not expecting any of them to play. But if we were to get like Highland out, Ish Smith active, then you're probably getting, a nice chunk of minutes for Ish Smith potentially. But assuming that those guys are inactive, agreed. And also, like, if we get this news, I mean, this is a 9 o'clock? Yeah, 9 o'clock game. If we get news that Highland is in, I'm swapping to as much Highland as I can get to.
Yeah. He looks exceptional if he's playing today.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just simply if he plays, he looks really good. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But the most recent reporting we've gotten out of Denver is that it doesn't look likely.
The good thing that helps here is that you're already going to have 5 Denver dudes aggressively. Like, the swaps you're going to have enough. Right,
it's just going to be moving
around.
Pieces around.
Yeah. So hit that like button, by the way. 2,800 people here, 385 likes. I have no limiting factors for any of these guys of the Brown, KCP, Porter, Gordon, Jordan stuff. Are you getting to, assuming we're right, do you get to anybody else?
So I get to a ton of those 5.
Yeah.
And then pretty much nothing else. Yeah.
Agreed.
Like 4%.
Najee would be the only guy that I would feel like okay getting to. And then Christian Brown, to me, since he's like the most functional person of this. What'd you say?
Brown. Is it really Brown?
It's really Brown.
Because it is definitely spelled Braun.
I agree with you. It's Brown.
Yeah.
Like, not trying to be funny either.
Yeah, no, he's wrong.
I agree. But, Brown's been a part of the rotation throughout most of the year to a degree. Zeke Naji, just power forward center, flat 3K on DraftKings, so viable-ish. But keep your eyes peeled for this one, guys, because every starter for Denver looks good, whether Bones is in or not, I would say, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they all look good regardless. It's just, I think they look even better if Bones is out because, for one, you are taking out a massive piece of the rotation, and the only guys to replace it are end-of-the-bench rotation pieces that you have to think aren't at the top of the list to be getting a lot of minutes. And then also, you're talking about somebody that is a massive usage guy and also has a 30% assist percentage. You're just getting a lot more productivity, or you expect a lot more productivity if he's out as well from the guys that are playing.
Avi hit us with the super chat, just said, Kevin Knox? My answer is no.
Yeah, I'm good. I gave him 16 minutes. He played 22 last game. Livers played 16. Yeah. I flipped those today, assuming Livers starts.
Yeah, it's not for me. Not for me. I'd rather take one of the random Denver dudes and just like hope that I got that right.
Yeah, hope you get like the Devon Reed game or something.
Christian Brown, shooting guard, small forward, 3,100. Yeah, it's really irritating if I'm being honest with you. I'm with you completely. I said Braun like the first 2 times that I did the shows, and then people were like, it's Brown. I was like, it's clearly not Brown. Straight to Basketball Reference. I was like, oh shit, it's Brown.
I would guess I've said it maybe once this year. So
yeah, not exactly a name that's going to be coming up a lot. One thing that I got to touch on quickly, there's the opportunity for you guys to get 3 days free at Stokastic if you've never been a member before. So it's a risk-free trial. You get full access to everything. But if you have never signed up with us before, check out 3 days free. It's a great time to do it. We are going to have a Black Friday deal coming up. I cannot tell you any part of what that deal is going to be. So if you want to pump the brakes a little bit, it might be coming up soon. However, if you just want to get in the door now, for right now, so you can play today's slate. 3 days free if you've never been here before. Ready to close this one out?
Oh, yeah, we didn't specifically talk about DeAndre Jordan, but he's kind of plug your nose and just suck it up and click the name because it's tough for him not to get a lot of minutes here.
Yeah. So I guess that is an interesting question, though. Let's just say something goes wrong with DeAndre Jordan today. Who benefits? Najee?
Najee.
Okay. Najee pulling 10% ownership on DraftKings right now. Similar story on FanDuel. Are you assuming to just be around that?
Actually, guessing I'd be under it. I mean, right now I went 30 Jordan and 18 Najee. And if I do that, or no, sorry, I went 30 Jordan, 20 Najee. Doing that, I didn't get to 10%. So,
okay. Do you want to get to Jordan? Like, because obviously 28 could be 34.
I mean, he's showing up a ton. Like, I'm going to have a lot of him.
Okay. Just checking.
As much as he sucks at actual basketball, he's a point per minute guy that just played a million minutes and is on an extremely shorthanded team.
And has no one blocking him.
Right.
Because they don't seem to like Najee.
The only real question with DeAndre Jordan was how many minutes can this dude play? And that got answered last game. So
good. And luckily, he's been able to take a bit of a rest since then, too. If this were a back-to-back, I would assume they'd have to put him down.
The Lakers. Dude is washed. He is extremely washed.
Who's washed?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he signed for the flat minimum to go to Denver and was unplayable in Brooklyn. He is. If he wasn't washed, we probably would have saw him in the playoffs when they needed him to be anything other than ass. But he's ass. The Los Angeles Lakers.
Time decision.
Of course. Of course. That's all we got, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just a quote from Jacques Vaughn about Ben Simmons.
Sizable underdogs here for the Lakers in Phoenix. We got the news earlier today that LeBron James is out, which means we have unlocked Anthony Davis at the very least. 10,500 on DraftKings. Unfortunately, just center only. With 22% owned, would you rather get to AD or other pay-up options today? Because when LeBron James isn't around, this dude's rates are insane.
I like getting to him. I prefer getting to Ja if he plays. If Ja doesn't play, then I'm going to get to a lot more Anthony Davis. The issue with Davis, the only issue with Davis is just that I went 34 minutes. I would have loved to go higher, but the Lakers suck. Like, I'm not projecting this game to be a blowout, but like he's averaging about 34 minutes in the games without LeBron because they're just going to get their asses kicked a good percentage of the time. So, I wish I could go higher. Certainly, if this game's competitive, you're getting more minutes, but that's just basically what he's averaging. So he still looks good, but on DraftKings, he is center only, so you lose a little bit of flexibility there. He is 10-5, so kind of makes it tough to get to as well. Again, if Ja plays, right now we have 23% ownership going to Davis and 11 going to Morant. I actually think those should be flipped, so I'm pretty sure that once I actually enter my lineups, it's just going to lead to me jamming Morant at the expense of Davis.
Alrighty. I wish so. Like, you've got the better price, but the shittier position. I've got power forward center, but he's 11-5. So I still like him, but
you have more favorable scoring too.
That's true. Yeah, like I like Anthony Davis. 11-5 is closer to appropriately priced, even with the way that he has been playing with no LeBron. What else do you want to get to here? Like, we've got Troy Brown and Thomas Bryant pulling ownership. I probably have, at least on the DK side, I don't really have much interest in Russ. Lonnie Walker looks fine. Reeves looks fine. I mean, Troy Brown looks fine to me. I'm just a little surprised he's getting it. I don't have any real need to get to Thomas Bryant at any ownership. What do you see for the rest of the Lakers?
Not much. Like you said, Austin Reeves should play low 30s in minutes. He's not a good point per minute guy, but he's cheap enough. Same goes for Troy Brown. Patrick Beverley's really cheap if you want to gamble on that. Thomas Bryant's 3,400. Played 23 minutes last game, which, we talked about it this morning. It's good to see from just a Thomas Bryant can physically play 23 minutes standpoint. Most of those minutes were without Anthony Davis on the floor. They did play a few minutes alongside each other, but that is a game where you did certainly see plenty of garbage time for Bryant. If this game's competitive, I think it's likely you're getting around 16 minutes, which is 3,400. He still can get it done potentially, but I'm not expecting to get to the field there. And the other thing too is like, there's not a ton that I want to pay up for on this slate. Obviously, if you can get to Davis, that's good. I love getting to Morant, but it's not like I'm trying to fit in, like a 12-5 Luka or Giannis or something. So if you're going to get 10 to 15% of the field going to guys like Zeke Naji and Thomas Bryant, that I think on average are playing 15, 16 minutes, I'm pretty happy to just not be there and play other guys.
I gave him 18 minutes. I went 34-18 with AD and Bryant, and I still don't find him to be interesting at all. So it's not for me. On the FanDuel side, Walker, Westbrook, and Troy Brown are all, 10 to 15% owned. I think that's all seems about right. Beverly's not really getting any love. That's fine. Austin Reeves at 5,400 on FanDuel to me is close to impossible to want to get to. It's just too big of a price tag. Unowned though, so like an interesting GPP flyer just because he's going to be out there. And if he's really 2% owned, like you're not going to find a lot of those types of guys on a slate like this, but you're going to need a hell of a lot of fantasy points from him at that $5,400 price tag. If he were 4,600 on FanDuel, that's a very different story.
Somebody asked about Schroeder. He's 4,200. I have him in for like 20 minutes. If you play him, the case would just be that they kick Kendrick Nunn out of the rotation and you get 26 minutes from Schroeder. It could happen. I don't have confidence in it happening.
No.
I think Elite TV nailed it, though. This Nets lineup is obviously because they know Ben Simmons has been working on his threes.
We close it out with Phoenix. No Chris Paul. Not a surprise there. No Cam Johnson, out for ages at this point. No Landry Shamet, which is important. Booker, Bridges, Payne, Ayton. I'll even say Torrey Craig to a degree, but I think the other four guys are slightly different in comparison. I think they all look really good. It's a great matchup. Obviously, no LeBron now, so it's even slightly more interesting. They're pulling a bunch of ownership, but I think it's fully warranted. I just like these Phoenix guys.
Yeah,
I kind of feel
here.
like Denver, but like less good.
Yeah, Phoenix is my third favorite team behind Denver and Philly. Getting to a lot of DeAndre Ayton, getting to a lot of Devin Booker. Cameron Payne looks good at 7,100. Bridges and Craig look fine. Bridges averaging 38 minutes per game in the games without Johnson and Shamet. Booker's at 37 minutes per game and gets an uptick in usage and production without Paul. DeAndre Ayton, if this game is competitive, is probably playing like 34. On average, he's playing 31, 32. So he looks good. Torrey Craig averaging 30 minutes per game, mentioned that earlier, without Johnson and Shamet. He's 4,900. All five of those guys look good. And then if you want to go dumpster diving for some guys that aren't getting any ownership, Dwayne Washington is playing pretty much every minute that Cameron Payne doesn't play. Last game, Jock Landale was not in the rotation. They went straight to Bismack Biyombo as the backup center. So potentially you're getting $3,200 Biyombo playing all of the non-Ayton minutes. I think both of those guys are sort of interesting large field tournament dart throws. Like if Zeke Nnaji,
that's why you don't go to Bryant.
Right. If Zeke Nnaji and Thomas Bryant are going to get 10 to 15% ownership, give me the same exact plays in Dwayne Washington, Bismack Biyombo at no ownership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're on the same page there. Like, do I think that I'm going to be getting a lot of Bismack Biyombo today? Well, no, because he's 4,600 on FanDuel, so it doesn't matter. But
I'm not getting
Thomas Bryant's getting 10, then
but
yeah,
they're to me like the same thing.
Yeah, you're not going to hold hands at 10% on Bryant and not end up with Biyombo when they're the same guy today.
Right.
But yeah, any Booker, Bridges, Payne, Ayton that shows up for me, I couldn't be happier. In particular, I think Devin Booker for 9,300 on DraftKings just looks exceptional today.
Yeah, absolutely love Devin Booker.
Well, we're going to have to dig into this Brooklyn stuff afterwards, but you and I aren't going to be here. 3,140 people, 445 likes. Let's run it up over 50 or over 500 now. Adam, any final thoughts for this slate before you and I get out of here? Turn it over to Live Before Lock.
Don't forget to pay attention to the Bones Highland news. If we don't have it before lock, be around to swap when we get it.
Fun slate tonight, guys. I hope everybody enjoys it. Good luck tonight. We still got one more before Thanksgiving, so let's have some fun. Stick around. Live Before Lock coming up next. Thanks, BetMGM.
Yo, it's that time of week again, where we induct all of you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame and give away a bunch of free memberships to Stokastic Plus Platinum. All you need to do to get up here, to have us brag for you, and to get your free month is download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar. We got a sexy new avatar up there now too, so make sure to change yours if you haven't yet. And then tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF on Twitter and win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when your lineup finishes top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Let's get into it. First up, monster win by Rich Green here. $50,000 on that insanely odd 3-game 10 p.m. tip-off slate for the NBA. Using the tools and projections at Stokastic, we got the takedown as well as 3 other members finishing in the top 10. You love to see it. You also love to see D. Sella with a $50K finish, checking off winning a large field tournament for the first time. Day 1 of owning the Stokastic Platinum. Worked out well, to say the least. Big shout out to Adam Scherer, Greg Ehrenberg, Josh Engleman, and all the others for the daily shows as well. A boatload of knowledge to be had, says D. Sella. And then our boy Low Budget DFS. What are the odds of having 20 entries with 47,000 field and tying yourself for first place with 2 different lineups? Yeah, I don't know. What I do know is that's awesome. Chop it first with yourself. I noticed too, it's a 2v2 where 2 players in completely different ways totaled 93 fantasy points. So congratulations, man. What a way to take that down. And then EJ, a very simple at Stokastic Hall of Fame $2,000 win. Not sure if that username is G1Z-Man or a cute way of saying Jizz-Man, but either way, nice win, G1Z-Man. Next up, Sotex. Needless to say, had myself a really good night and so close to first, but I'll take it. Thanks to everyone at Stokastic. Good stuff, Sotex with a $1,000 win there. And Brian Walton, love this one. Just got my free month of platinum for an NFL Showdown first place, so he gets it through the Stokastic Hall of Fame. And then he gets a small win in the NBA. Shout out to Stokastic for the best tools and analysts in the business. And then Dave Oliver, thank you guys for the great NHL content. $600 in the hip check and the quarter jukebox. Followed up with Hugh Honey, 420. Say does fourth place count for my front page finish using your projections? Well, you're up here, fellas, so I'd say yes. And then Brandon W, second out of 260K. Thank you, Stokastic Hall of Fame. Remember, all you got to do to get inducted, all you got to do to get your free month, use the avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. Use it anywhere you play and tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame.
I'm happy to be back as well.
Shut up.
He's not happy that I'm back today. Nothing's guaranteed. Walk out that door one day. You never know if you're going to come back. You assume, but you never know. What is going on, guys? And welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock Show. And it's a special one because we just got a shit ton of NBA news just as we were about to start, which is more or less the normal for around here. So why you guys come in, like the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But also, Eric Lindquist back from his trip to Paris. Eric, how was vacation?
That was fantastic. Thank you to everybody, obviously, here at Stokastic. We had so many guys, picking up the slack for me, just being so lazy out there, drinking wine, eating cheese, living the life. Paris to Bordeaux, back to Paris. Wife and I, we just... I went to Italy. I officiated a wedding last year, but otherwise I hadn't left the country before that since I was 12. So it had been a while. So now apparently I'm just going to Europe every year. That's not going to be the trend going forward. But just, our 1-year anniversary and looking at the next stage of life and everything, to be able to go to France and hang out I don't know if you could have that trip was as good as it gets, flat out.
How expensive was the trip to France? You have to give us dollar figures.
I'm uncomfortable telling you. I mean, it's
and by the way, uncomfortable also. I'm waiting for some of the ownership to get updated here. I built lineups as per usual. I built lineups for the show on both FanDuel and DraftKings. All of it's fucked. None of it means anything. We got news right before we started. Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray upgraded to questionable. I presume they're going to be playing now because there would be no reason to upgrade them to questionable if they weren't going to play, in my opinion. If they don't end up playing, then just screw everything. Because now I'm putting them back in. We're going to have to do everything. But it's basically we got a totally different slate than what's been talked about the entire day. The value plays are different. The pay-up options are different. Everything was one way, and now it's another. So I definitely want some of that to get updated as we start talking about it. But what was the highlight of the trip for you?
Highlight of the trip. So there's this chateau called Chateau Margaux. It's a very famous, there's 5 different classifications of wine. Like the top classification, when you go to Bordeaux, everything's Chateau something. And we did like a private wine tour, like out in the French countryside there. You have like a left bank, right bank there when you go to Bordeaux. But we spent the first week in Paris. We went a couple days in Bordeaux and then went back to Paris. And this wine, like, I've developed a little bit of a palate because my wife had always drank red wine. I had never really drank it before. So 7.5 years I've been drinking red wine. And this is by far like the most unbelievable wine that I've ever had in my entire life. Found out after the fact we were just like having a little wine taste of like a $700 bottle of wine. Let me just tell you, you can taste a difference in that kind of stuff. So pretty cool to be able to go and see all these different winemakers. We did 3 days, 3 wine tours, one day, 3 another day, where you're just doing like tastings and you get to see the entire process. Very, very different than what it is out in California for how you go about growing wine. So that was phenomenal. And hey, Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, all the Paris stuff, pretty amazing too.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm happy because I know you text me. You finally got to fulfill your life's mission to sit on the Eiffel Tower. It's something you wanted to do since you were a wee boy, and now it has come to fruition. You finally been able to do that.
I missed you so much.
But as if we didn't text while you were gone.
We did. We
texted. I asked you how your vacation was. We got updates on things going on at work. It was good times.
You did.
Now let's start talking about this Denver news because, like we were saying coming in, everything was one way, and now it's another. You look at the ownership projections we had coming into the day, which are about to be drastically, everything's going to be different. There is no piece of data I'm looking at right now that's relevant because the most popular players on the slate, at least 3 of the 4 most popular in DK, were DeAndre Jordan, Bones Highland, and Bruce Brown. None of them are going to pick up any ownership now over on FanDuel. Bones Highland and Bruce Brown were the 2 most popular players. Are you on the same page as me where you're just assuming Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, they are now good to go tonight?
Yeah, they're absolutely playing. I don't think this is a Ja Morant situation where he gets upgraded to questionable and there's actually, I think, like a game time decision. Fortunately, that's a little bit earlier. But this one, I think as soon as we got the news that they're now questionable, this was an illness. Both of them. I am pretty positive they're playing. I'm 99.9% sure. That's pretty confident, I would say.
Yeah, and the other thing we were talking about, because this happened, this always happens with this news. It happened like the second the deep dive ended, the second right before lock starts, we get this news that comes in. It was so far removed from my mind that this was even a possibility. Yep. That I didn't even know the prices of these guys on DraftKings and FanDuel ahead of time. Because why would I? Why was this information that we would think was even going to be a possibility? These guys were ruled out, 2 days ago for tonight's game, and let me see the last time these guys actually played. So the last time Jokic played, it's actually been 10 days. It was November 13th.
I wouldn't know.
Sorry, what was that?
I said I wouldn't know.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't know. I think the last time they played, they have been out of basketball games longer than you were on vacation.
It's wild. Yeah, I was gone for 9 days.
Jamal Murray, on the other hand, last played November 16th. So he played more recently, but Jokic missed a very long period of time. Is there any concern that he may play limited minutes his first game back, considering it's been 10 days since he played and we don't know how sick he was?
Yeah, but part of that, I mean, 11-6 at a center position where you don't have Joel Embiid. I mean, I'm still going to prefer probably getting to some Anthony Davis there. Center's pretty disgusting. I think just depending on what you think this value is going to be from Philadelphia, I think that there's some paths to getting up to an 11-6 Jokic. I think he'll probably come in under oath, still has the Q tag next to him. You haven't seen him written up anywhere. Nobody's talked about it because, again, until an hour before this slate started, literally 9 minutes ago, we got this news and it came from the absolute clouds. So I will say that people are going to be apprehensive. People aren't going to be super ecstatic to get there. I think those are the times that you want to play guys like Jokic who are 11-6 and obviously overpriced. And Philadelphia, I got to say, I've got some different takes. I think that there's a lot of ways that this rotation could work out where you could get a guy who's 3K or 4,300 Daniel House, or, again, I'll save that one for a little bit later because I do have one guy that I think in tournaments at 3K flat on Philly makes some sense. But I keep looking at some of the pieces around this entire slate. And Denver, there's basically no value that exists there that we kind of expected something to be there. We're all going to be looking at this Philadelphia situation very, very closely. Maybe you can't get there to 11-6, but I'm just starting to rerun some stuff. And if you can give me a 5 or a 10% owned Nikola Jokic, that's always intriguing on a 4-game slate.
Yeah, we just need to see what that ownership actually ends up being. Yep. And a big fallout of this news, which you kind of brought up before, is this was our value spot, the Denver Nuggets. This was the team that we're going to be playing for value. Mm-hmm. Whereas, we've got all these guys that are out for the 76ers, but it's not like DeAnthony Melton is $3,900 anymore. It's not like Shake Milton is min price. We've got Shake Milton is $5,300 on DK. DeAnthony Melton is $7,500. They're FanDuel prices. We have Melton is priced on FanDuel at $7,400, and then Milton is priced at $5,800. So I think the biggest issue I'm going to have with getting up to guys like Jokic, what is the opportunity cost? So it's not just that me being like, oh, cool, maybe he'll be underowned in large field tournaments, which I tend to agree is probably going to be the case. But the bigger problem I have is how do I find the salary savings to get up for him? Because the biggest thing that gets taken away with Jokic and Jamal Murray now presumably playing is there are no cheap guys that we could really roster anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be some push and pull. I think you're going to have to force it a little bit to make it work. Again, I think the ownership is just going to be so far removed from what it would be. Obviously, if this news came out much, much earlier, but specifically an hour before the slate starts and now removing a lot of value, everybody's going to be using optimizers. I really think as things start to get a little bit more clear based on what we get from Philadelphia's starting lineup, we'll have a better sense of what we're working with for this slate. But again, I don't expect him to, under any circumstances, be more than 10%. And just kind of assuming that, unless you're just getting 150 players being like, all right, Jokic is going to be underowned, I'm going to jam him here. But I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think, salary is much, much tighter than what it was earlier in the day. And now also Ja Morant, I expect him to play, but I think he's closer to a 50-50. I think he's probably like 65-35 in my opinion. And I've got him in right now. So that removes everything from Memphis. We'll see. This entire slate just got very, very interesting, as if it wasn't interesting enough already.
I would be pretty surprised if Morant doesn't play. So just his injury status. Also, he went from, very rare do we get players upgraded from out to in, but we could get the grand slam from Ja Morant. We might get the cycle here because he went from out to doubtful to questionable. I need that update that he's probable and is going to go through warm up and then get him upgraded in. We don't see the injury cycle very often. It would be the first one of the season in the NBA, which is it should be a crowns accomplishment on DraftKings roster a player that goes for the injury cycle.
Oh man.
But because that's what we could have with Ja Morant. But typically when you see players upgraded that frequently, he went through shoot around today. It's typically an indication that they end up playing. So it does seem like you're pretty much on the same page with me. It's also a game 234.5 total, by far the highest on the slate. But talking about Ja Morant, if he was to get ruled out, what would stand out the most for Memphis in that kind of scenario? Just we're making sure that we touch all our bases before we get into more of the nitty gritty, and also giving us more time for that ownership to update.
Yeah, if he's out, Tyus Jones becomes a jam. Even at 5,900 on DraftKings, that I have no qualms about playing him almost all in. We'd be looking at Dylan Brooks going from completely unplayable, in my opinion, right now to being a really decent play. Sitting there as well. Jaren Jackson Jr., a guy that I had to look into quite a bit here. We just saw him nuke against OKC in 25 minutes. I think he would be much more interesting. I think for tournaments today, he's still a guy that you want to take some shots on in case we start to see, 26, 27, 28 minutes. It's going to happen sooner rather than later for him. And we've seen multiple times where Jaren Jackson Jr. just does things on a floor without Morant. You'd be looking at those kind of guys just being your primary beneficiaries. Not a whole lot else that would get all that appealing. I mean, John Conchard, 6,200. What are we doing here, DraftKings.com? That would be just absurd. But Tyus Jones would be a jam all-in kind of thing.
Yeah, John Conchard, definitely way overpriced. And, there was times that we were rostering a little bit at the beginning of the year. Boy, was priced at 4,200, 4,300, something along those lines. And now he's just priced way up. Yeah, there is not a lot of value to be had on this slate, which certainly makes it difficult to build lineups and pay up for some of those high-end guys. One other thing that's kind of interesting about Denver is so we now have Jamal Murray and we've got Nikola Jokic upgraded to questionable. On the other side, though, Bones Highland was probable this afternoon and was downgraded to questionable. It's funny because coming into the day, Bones Highland was probable. Jokic and Murray were both ruled out. It would have been a stretch for me to assume, yeah, well, Highland is going to sit and these guys are going to end up playing. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards happening now, just because he was somebody who got downgraded over the course of the day. The other guy's getting upgraded. Is there any value to be had just to make sure that we're really turning over every stone here? Let's say Jokic and Murray play, but Bones Highland does not. Does that create any value off the bench for Denver?
Off the bench? Not really. I think that there's guys that are in play just by it being the nature of a short slate. We're talking about a 4-game slate that is pretty absent of value. I think Christian Braun, 3,100, maybe. Zeke Naji, gone probably because you're getting Jokic back. I'm not going to be looking at him or DeAndre Jordan. Zeke Naji could just be out of the rotation now. I think Braun, but yeah, overall, I probably don't think so. Christian Braun at 3,100, just because of where his price point is probably the most appealing. But when I say appealing, I mean that very, very, very loosely.
I think so here's the scenario where he's appealing, and appealing, we're using it very, very loosely, right?
Yep.
Like we're talking about being blackout drunk and you walk past a 3 to bar, like that kind of.
Hey, like, girl.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. You just spent time in France, but
yeah,
sometimes, right, there's just an end goal you need to reach. And if we're committed that we need to pay up for a Nikola Jokic or a John Morant lineup, well, that's where a Christian Braun might come into play without Bones Highland, where it's like, well, this is the best I could get right now. And I need these pay up guys. So I can make a case for Christian Braun just from that standpoint.
Yeah, I forgot it is Brown. It is Christian Braun. I forgot about that because he played for Kansas, and I remember during the NCAA tournament. Sorry, chat was calling me out for saying Christian Braun.
In fairness to you, he spelled his name wrong. This is not your fault.
Yeah, this is his parents' fault.
Braun. Actually, it's probably the fault of an immigration agent something like 7 years ago, for being honest.
Thank you for your specificity.
Yeah, not your fault. Somebody else's fault. Nothing to do with
not your fault.
Don't blame him.
Greg, it's not your fault.
No. Well, it's definitely not my fault.
You get that movie quote? You didn't get that movie quote.
It's not your fault. That could be a million different movies.
There's only one movie that this is. Chat's about to spam the living shit out of it.
Right,
There's only one movie that it's, hey,
about?
Greg, it's not your fault. Good Will Hunting. Are you kidding me?
Okay, but that's such a generic quote.
No, it is not. It is not generic. When Robin Williams, the great late Robin Williams, is the one saying it.
Yeah, he stole a lot of jokes, but I get what you're saying.
He didn't steal the golf bit, and that's the greatest bit of all time.
Did he really? Every single thing that he said on stage was stolen. All right, let's talk about one other piece of news that comes for today's slate, which is actually going to be really important now. Ben Simmons is now the starting center for the Nets. And I'm happy they're doing this. Simmons has played really well at center for this team as of late. And I know that Claxton's been really good this year also, but if the Ben Simmons experiment is going to work, it has to be with him playing center, in my opinion. And I think this is optimal for creating floor spacing. People have complained for years about how Ben Simmons can't shoot. Guess what? Most centers can't shoot. It does not matter if he can't shoot, if he's playing with 4 other players that can shoot and he's playing center. I think this team could work with Ben Simmons at center. He's starting at the spot today. I think there's upside in Simmons, and he was somebody that I was going to get to before. But now with the lack of value I have on the slate, Simmons is probably going to end up being one of my more rostered players. Are you on board with me, or should I be concerned here?
No, Ben Simmons is a smash today, and I'm on board with you on DraftKings. I'm not playing FanDuel, but if I would be playing FanDuel today, priced out of that slate a little bit more. Plus, if he goes out and just nukes it in Philly, you're getting all the double-double, triple-double bonuses, all of those things. It is only a 4-game slate, and if Ben Simmons double-doubles, you're pretty much hitting that upside anyway, considering he's just 6,300, so not like you need extra there. But on FanDuel, you need a lot more. You're going to need the steals, blocks, and so on and so forth at that kind of a price, but I'm on board with you too. I think this was Josh and I that had this conversation last year when this trade went down right after the fact. Ben Simmons was always going to have to play the 5 on this team in this current construction. He can guard 5 spots, in positionless basketball. I always thought Ben Simmons could be an asset. I know you were high on him coming into this season talking about it. I was a little bit hesitant just because I didn't know how many minutes he'd be playing out of the gate. Of course, he looked as bad as possible, but now that we're seeing the minutes ramped up and we got the start last time out and we saw it click with Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Simmons for the first time against a decent team there in Memphis, given John Morant got hurt. But I feel pretty darn confident in Ben Simmons being one of my highest owned players. He's quote unquote value under the current construction of this slate now.
I don't know if he meant it this way, but whether it was intentional or unintentionally, maybe the funniest comment that's ever been in the YouTube chat, where Nathan Riggs said, according to Kyrie Irving, it is Greg's fault, which is absolutely hilarious. A lot of things are.
Jordan found that hilarious too, right? Jordan Klein, who's on his phone, not paying attention to us in any way, shape, or form. Are you texting a girl? You're texting a girl, aren't you? Oh, never mind. Keep working. Right. Goodbye.
All right. By the way, so earlier in the day, we had found out that Nick Claxton was going to come off the bench. Now, apparently, it's going to be Claxton and Simmons both starting. That actually does change my idea of the floor spacing a little bit. I'm not sure who it is that would come off the bench then. If it's Claxton and Simmons starting, is it Joe Harris or Royce O'Neal that moves?
I would assume that it's going to be Joe Harris off the bench, which is a little strange to me considering Joe Harris, the man can shoot a basketball. And we've seen that now the last two, 33 and 28 minutes. He started the entire season when he's been active. I would find it to be strange, but like Royce O'Neal, maybe this is the other part that maybe makes some sense about why it could be Royce O'Neal off the bench. We've seen that he's a capable distributor of the basketball. He's now had 11 and 8 assists the last two. Maybe they feel like if they're going to start Kyrie, that they can bring Royce O'Neal off the bench and maybe create. He never really was that guy in Utah. He hasn't been that guy other than the last two games. Maybe it's just something that they're going to try out here. And maybe Ben Simmons, obviously you want him to start here in this glorified spot. And maybe I don't know, maybe Nick Claxton gets the quick hook. There's a lot of iterations. I just kind of want to see these lineups. It's the first game, so I'm not panicking. I'm not worrying or trying to insinuate too much. I guess the one thing is just kind of what will that do to the Philadelphia starting lineup if you do get Claxton and Simmons out there? Are they trying to force Paul Reed or Montrezl Harrell onto the floor to start off the game, open up in space, maybe have Joe Harris knock down some threes? You obviously have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, shouldn't be too big of a deal, but maybe it's something where they're trying to force Philadelphia's hand to maybe play bigger and force two pretty poor defenders in Reed and Harrell onto the floor.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, so it actually does hamper my expectations for Ben Simmons a little bit. On the positive end, though, he's still going to play the backup center minutes. I think him and Claxton will be staggered a little bit to where I think at least one of them will always be on the floor to play center minutes. I do wish that he was starting at center and it wasn't just him alongside Nick Claxton, but not the end of the world, but it actually is going to limit the amount of exposure, at least a little bit lower the exposure that would have otherwise got to Ben Simmons. Well, let's talk about it. There's a lot of uncertainty on today's NBA slate. Eric, should we tell these people the surest way to make money today? Do you think we should do that?
I think we should do that right now.
Okay. Because we got a deal right now. It's back. Our BetMGM deal, we've got a no-brainer offer for them where if you sign up for the first time, click on the link that Jordan's about to throw into the YouTube comments. It's also below in the description box. Eric's pointing in, who knows if it's the right direction. Neither of us know, but you just point in all different directions, and eventually we're going to hit one of them. But you click on that link, you head on over to BetMGM, you place a $5 bet on a money line for any World Cup soccer game, and it's going to pay out $200.
$10.
$10. All right. So $10 on any of them. Eric is trying to up the stakes here. But either way, it's going to pay out $200. And all you have to do is click on that link, sign up, you bet on a money line. Now, the language in the deal, it says that a goal has to be scored, but it's a goal scored for the entire tournament. There's already been a goal scored. So it pays out no matter what happens. It's $200 for free, easy money. When you sign up, just make sure to click on that link and head on over to BetMGM. Now, let me refresh our ownership to see.
That was not a mime bit. It was trying to do 5 and 10 and try to point to the links and things. Also, when did we change the graphic on the screen?
It was just something we did in celebration after you left. We didn't think you were coming back. And we're like, let's party. Let's make new graphics for Eric on. And then he came back. We're like, fuck.
Sounds great. Jesus, that was extreme. It was a lot.
That's what happened now.
I'll find out who made them, and then I'll pass judgment.
Is it all right? How about
it looks good. I literally, it's not my department. It's not my job.
Is the person who made it somebody who complains a lot? Okay, so it's not that producer. I'm trying to figure out who it is.
I want to poll if people like this or the graphic that was on the last show more. I caught the last 15 minutes of it there, but I'm just curious. I want to know what the people think about this because again, change. I'm still a boomer sooner. I'm 35 years old. I don't know. Change just always makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Good talk. Glad we had it.
Let me go. I'm trying to refresh the ownership to see if we've got any updates there on the other news. Not quite.
See, if it was Chris that made the graphic, I love the graphic. It looks great. If it was Jordan Klein that made the graphic, it's cool. I love it. I love what they did with the place.
Have you built any lineups yet?
No, I literally am just waiting for this Philadelphia news because it's almost pointless, right? It's flat out pointless to build lineups right now without knowing what those two starting lineups are.
So what is your presumed starting lineup for the Sixers? Like, I'm pretty confident I know what the starters are.
Okay, well, I mean, if I had to, Milton. So yeah, Milton Point, Melton 2, Tobias Harris, Danuel House, and PJ Tucker would be my guess for the 5. But again, if you're going to put Claxton and Simmons on the floor, are they still going to keep PJ Tucker at the 5 and have, Ben Simmons is not small. The guy just went and put a billion layups in last. What did he do? I watched a lot of that. 11 for 13 from the field seems good against Memphis. He was just getting whatever he wanted at the basket. And then you get Claxton out there too. Again, I think in that kind of a scenario, maybe they're just saying, hey, come and dance, Paul Reed, Montrezl Harrell, let's do the thing. But that would be my assumed 5, the one I just said.
Yeah, same for me. And I'm actually like pretty confident that's going to be the starting lineup.
Can we talk about one guy that nobody's talked about all day long that I just have an uncomfortable feeling is going to play a lot more than we think?
Sure.
Furkan Korkmaz. There are so many times throughout his tenure where he goes from being out of the rotation to playing 20 plus minutes. And if you go through 2021's box, 2021, 2022, if you go through the entire session, he goes from playing like 12, 14 minutes to playing 29, 30, 22, 27 in some of these spots in between like 5, 7. Let's see. He goes from playing 6, 32 minutes. There's so many things like this. Remember that Seth Curry is no longer a part of this team. He got traded before the deadline last year. And Furkan Korkmaz, there were a number of times when they just needed to have shooting on the floor. Danuel House ain't that guy. Tobias Harris, Shake Milton now. You don't have Maxey. You don't have Embiid. You don't have Harden. You don't have the 3 best scorers and shooters for this basketball team in play today. And for a while, it would seem. I think Korkmaz at a flat 3K with multi-positional eligibility. It would not completely shock me. Now, he had knee soreness. That was the deal that they've been talking about. I think he's probably not been right now for a while. But if he's going to be playing today and if he's good to go, I'm projecting him for an uncomfortable amount of minutes. Like, I think there's an opportunity for him around a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy to play 20, 24 minutes out of the middle of absolutely nowhere. And at a flat 3K, I don't know. I think it's worth the shot now to try to create some value out of nowhere. And I just get that feeling that he might play a lot more than we think.
Well, I have a feeling that he can't play less than I think he's going to play because I haven't projected for 0 minutes. So
okay, I get why you're doing that. And again, I understand that this is as uncomfortable of a play as I will ever say out loud. But like legitimately, there is no scoring on the floor there. There is no shooting. If you're going to try to win a basketball game against Brooklyn as a 7.5 point dog, we've talked about this a lot. Yeah. What do you do, Greg? What do you do in these spots? You just up the variance and you shoot threes with reckless abandon. I get a feeling that Korkmaz plays 20 plus minutes, so I'm just going to take the shot.
Hey, I understand the logic. He is, unless we find out, obviously, if he's starting, I feel totally different about it. Yeah. But assuming that he is going to be coming off the bench, I have to project him for 0 minutes, and he's just not going to be in my lineups because guys don't generally project well when I give him 0 minutes. But I understand it's not like I could say with 100% confidence I know what that 76ers rotation is going to be. I'm just going to be looking elsewhere. But if you're giving Korkmaz minutes, who does that come at the expense of? Is it House plays less? Is it somebody else that people are getting to that you don't like as much?
Yeah, I mean, George Niang has played a lot of minutes, 31 and 32, the last two. Danuel House, played what? A crazy amount. 31 and 39 minutes now, the last two. Korkmaz hasn't been available for either of them. That's the other part that just has me very, very nervous about this entire situation. And I get it. This is not a player like, okay, I love how my first show back, I'm sitting here as a stand for Furkan Korkmaz out of the middle of absolutely nowhere. But I don't know. I think about this from a real life basketball perspective, and you look at the floor spacing for this team, and maybe Georges Niang can play some more here, but like, I don't want Danuel House out on the floor for 38 minutes if I'm trying to knock down shots. There's also blowout potential here. And if you're going to have blowout, why not give it to Furkan Korkmaz, somebody that you've had be a meaningful part of this rotation once upon a time. Now, last year, we saw it all over the place. Again, all you have to do is go through that box score, and you can see 528, 532. Like, there are so many examples of him just playing a ton. I would much rather do this at 3K Furkan Korkmaz than 4K or 4,500 Furkan Korkmaz. I wouldn't probably remotely take this shot or try to talk through this process unless I was pretty convinced that 3K mattered a ton. And by the way, Sixers starting lineup, they did exactly what I thought they would do. That's wild.
Let's see. So they put in the starting lineup of, yeah. Oh, this isn't what we expected.
I said they would, that if you're going to start Simmons and Claxton, you're trying to bring Harrell out on the floor to start. Like you're saying, you got to play bigger. And so Harrell starting again. The presumed 5, if you didn't get the news on Simmons and Claxton, was what we said. But you said you were pretty confident about it. I was not, because if you're going to throw Claxton and Simmons out there, you got to bring Reed or Harrell along. Otherwise, they're just going to smash. They're probably going to smash them anyway on the interior. But at least Harrell gives them some kind of a fighting chance. Whereas like PJ Tucker with both Claxton and Simmons would not be a whole lot of fun for the Sixers.
We have a super chat. This one is directed specifically at you. And we're going to talk about the implications of the Sixers starting lineup in a second. But first, super chat from Shane Daly. Eric, how many times do you say this on your vacation? Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? Ce soir?
Moulin Rouge, strutting a stop on the street.
Eric walks into every single bar in Paris, and that's what he starts saying, like another American.
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing.
And then they spit in his food, as they should.
So when that ghost meme was going around from the new Call of Duty, where he's just kind of looking at people dumb, it reminded me of every waiter every time I'd say, merci beaucoup. And they were just like, shut the fuck up. Just say thank you in English. That would be great, rather than whatever I was trying to do.
I like how we've got the poll up. Which overlays do you like more? And what percentage of people even know what we're talking about when we say the overlays?
Not a single. Right, I was going to say, we misled Your Honor, leading the witness.
And also, people are talking about my pronunciation. I don't know the pronunciation. I've heard the song before. I don't know exactly. People knew what I was saying at least, but I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. Could you do it better?
Voulez-vous coucher ce soir? Ce soir. There you go.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't it either. But we both gave it our best go. Let's talk about the Sixers starting lineup. Melton, Harris, Tucker, Harrell. I think Harrell is probably the best value play on the slate now.
Probably. But also, give me some Paul Reed, because I think this is like at least established that we're going to probably get some center split minutes. Like Harrell played 29 in that one start. So I get it. You're probably looking at that kind of being the mainstay. I'm going to put him in for 28 minutes right now. That's going to change drastically from the 13.45 we had him projected for here. But Paul Reed already, I think that this is probably a good thing for him, because if you had PJ Tucker small, I think Harrell or Reed might have just been the only backup 5. I think now you're probably getting a split between Harrell and Reed. And that makes Reed pretty intriguing from a tournament perspective. He's also 3,700. I probably don't want to get them in the same lineup. If you're hand building, you're definitely not going to build with both. I might just put a rule in place here as I'm crunching to make sure I don't get Reed and Harrell. But I think this is a good thing to solidify Paul Reed's minutes too. I'm not sure if you feel the same way.
So I think I probably feel about Paul Reed the same way you felt about Furkan Korkmaz 3.5 minutes ago. Cool. Do you know what I mean by that? In terms of, I think that we are going to see Paul Reed with a little bit of variance here. If he's out of the rotation, wouldn't be the most stunning thing in the world. But I feel more confident about him getting minutes than I do about Furkan Korkmaz. So I'm cool with getting to Paul Reed as a contrarian option in some lineups. Now, is he going to likely play a lot of minutes? Should you play him in cash games? No. But if you say, like, what's a fair projection between the two? I don't know, 28 minutes for Harrell, 20 minutes for Paul Reed, with variability there as well. If the Nets are up by a lot, I would think in the fourth quarter is probably Paul Reed or PJ Tucker playing minutes at the 5 and not Montrezl Harrell, because they would have to shoot to get back into the game. So all things being equal, Montrezl Harrell is the best value play coming out of the Sixers now, but I think Paul Reed's a very good tournament pivot.
Yeah, look, people, we talk all the time about how much more projectable the NBA is. And, this is the most projectable DFS sport. This is one of those scenarios where the range of outcomes is so wide because, one, all three primary scorers for a basketball team, Harden, Maxey, and of course Embiid, all three of them are gone, kaput. We have no idea what this is going to look like because this is the first iteration where we really don't get any of them. And it is so hard to know where these minutes are going to land. And every matchup is going to be different for this team. I think they're going to have to really play specific matchups. I think there's going to be times that PJ Tucker does start at the 5 and you don't really see those other guys. But you got to take some educated guesses. And now Paul Reed not starting. I think that's an educated guess you're making. Furkan Korkmaz, me just thinking about this from a real life basketball perspective, I think I'm making an educated guess. Plus, we've seen it. Like, we've seen both of these scenarios play out where DeAndre Jordan, when he was the backup, and then there were those couple games Joel Embiid was out, we saw Paul Reed play the majority of the center minutes as a backup. If Paul Reed comes out in his first rotation or two and just smashes, there's nothing stopping him from getting 25, 26 minutes and Harrell playing 22. So the range of outcomes is very, very wide. I don't think we can project this one very, very tightly and very well outside of the main keys. Like Tobias Harris, I think is still very much in play. 7,800 doesn't feel great, but I think you can definitely get there. D'Anthony Melton and Shake Milton, specifically the guard positions, are so short up because they just have nobody else they can put out on the floor. Korkmaz, I think, is probably going to be a benefit of any kind of issue for D'Anthony Melton, too. I think he could end up being out on the floor. Matisse Thybulle is definitely not adding scoring to the mix, and I doubt they're going to need any kind of a defensive presence to really do anything, because if the Sixers are going to be competitive here, they're going to have to find a way to get the ball in the basket.
Got a general strategy question from Pawnage Method in our Discord channel. One of the perks of being here over at Stokastic, you get into the Discord channel, could ask us questions. We haven't had Seth asking us his normal questions today. He must be off doing something with his wife and his wife's boyfriend. But we did get one in here from Pawnage Method who's saying, smaller slate, should we up our unique players from 1 to 2? No, I'm still fine with there being, it also depends how many lineups you're playing. But in general, I'm fine with just having one unique player in lineups. Do you feel differently?
So do people know what uniques are? Because what you're doing is you're replacing 2 spots in the lineup on each one of those. On a 4-game slate, you're going to run into some ridiculous plays. Now, you can do things to combat that. You can change min projected, included in calculation, make the minimum like 15 or 16, and you won't get to those really ridiculous plays there at the bottom end. But when you start going to 2 uniques, even in like a 20 max situation, let me just do this for the talking through it.
By the way, Pawnage Method updated and said that he's doing 150. No, you're good with 1 unique. You don't have to.
Yeah, you shouldn't do 2 uniques on a short slate like this, because again, you're going to get to the absolute doldrums going to 2 uniques in a spot like this. Like maybe I'm overthinking it, but I don't think I am.
Yeah. So for me, I would say just absolutely no need for it on this kind of slate. Also, apparently we have a super chat from Michael McKinney. He asked his normal question. He wants to know, for FanDuel Cash, who are the 5 must plays? So I'm kind of happy that I missed that question when it first came. We waited until now, because anything we would have said at the beginning of the show, I don't think would have been all that relevant. Now we have some better information. So given what we currently know about this slate, if you had to say 5 players that Michael absolutely must play in cash games today, who would it be over on FanDuel?
It's the easiest question ever over there. Melton, Payne, Milton, Bogdanovich, Burks. There you go. You're playing Melton and Milton. There's no way that you're not. You're playing them on both sites in cash. Cameron Payne, 6,800 on FanDuel. That's different than the 7,100 over on DK, even though I still think he's very interesting for DK purposes. And then my boy Bogdanovich, I love him so much. He's going to be very popular, 5,800. Don't forget, you're also absent Sadiq Bey, so that's another wing shooter, maybe even a little bit more volume. He's already been around a 24-25% usage guy. In the absence of Cade Cunningham, we could see even a little notch up. Jaden Ivey is leading this team in assists, so that makes some sense. And then Alec Burks, 4,700. I get it. Doesn't feel great, but I think he's absolutely got to be the guy that you're also plugging in there. So yeah, those are both point guard and shooting guard eligible. Just wanted to double check that all three of them were. They are. You should play them.
Yep, I have no disagreements with anything you said at all. I am actually now. It's always good when you have to wait until 20 minutes left until the playoffs. Time to start building some lineups. I think it's about time.
Oh, really?
That we did that. Yeah, it's about that time. And by the way, we really couldn't before. Like you said, there was no point until we got that 76ers starting lineup, because it would have been something that we probably would have had to have updated almost immediately once that information came out. So yeah, time to start building some lineups, and then we could also hit on some of the players that we are getting to most frequently. Now, I don't have lineups finished, and
Joe Harris not starting. Simmons, Irving, O'Neal, Durant, Claxton. Wild.
That feels like not great for floor spacing.
Philadelphia is, for lack of a better term, shit in this current iteration, so it probably doesn't matter. This is probably, just a moot point in terms of like real basketball, because they should be able to just do whatever they want against Philly. So I'm not going to read into it too much here, but yeah, in terms of floor spacing, you probably don't need to if you can just back down Montrezl Harrell in the post as Ben Simmons.
Who's bigger, Ben Simmons or Montrezl Harrell?
Oh, Ben Simmons has to be way bigger. I've played this game with some other guys. Like, Ben Simmons is just a big fucking dude. He's gigantic.
Yeah. It's because I remember when I was talking about how Ben Simmons should start at center. It might have been when you were on a show with me. I feel like it was somebody else, but I can't remember. And there's people in chat saying like, oh, he can't play against this guy, can't play against this guy because the size different. He's like the exact same size as Miles Turner. Ben Simmons is really big. I think Turner's a few pounds heavier, but they're the same height. So yeah, Simmons is definitely big. I would assume that he's bigger than Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah, let me just pull this up, because Montrezl Harrell is 6'7". Ben Simmons is a lot bigger than 6'7". Let me tell you that. Seen that guy in person.
I think Simmons is 6'11",
6'10". And let me tell you, seeing him like courts, like next to the court, he is even bigger than that. And then he also runs like a gazelle. Like, the guy's a freak of nature. And if we get this current iteration, we've had the last couple games where he's confident, he's taking it to the rack, and it doesn't really matter. As long as he's not shy about finishing at the hoop, if he's figured that out mentally, he's a beast. He's an absolute monster of a real life basketball player.
We've got some super chats coming in right now. This one from Vic P. Killer. Hello. Is Killian Hayes or Alec Burks? Thank you. All right. So I guess he's asking Killian Hayes or Alec Burks. Between the two, what is your preference?
Well, are we talking DK, FanDuel? Was there a site specific? Because I think
hello, is Killian Hayes or Alec Burks? I don't know.
I like Alec Burks, I think, a little bit more than Killian Hayes on both sites. Yeah, let me double check this. Hayes, I think it's pretty darn close. I think you're going to play just because the price tag. So on DK, you could really go either way with it. On FanDuel, it's going to be Alec Burks.
Killian Hayes has been much better this year than he was last year. He sucked last year. And then his rookie year, he got hurt. He only played a handful of games. I was pretty high on him going into the draft, not because of any of my own information, but because I've read stuff from people who I like that were high on Killian Hayes going into the draft. And it looked like he wasn't going to pan out. Maybe he's a rotation guy. Maybe he's a starting caliber NBA player now. He has looked better as of late. But to also answer the question you said before, I'm going to lean towards Alec Burks, but I don't think either of them are bad plays. A1 Andy.
They are completely different than what it was earlier in the day. We have 16 minutes till the slate starts. There's no real pronounced value that you feel good about. So, like, all these guys are in play now.
The next super chat we have is from A1 Andy. Still play Joe Harris now that he's not starting? No. I don't even know if I was going to play him all that much before, but now for sure.
He's not in my player pool. I took him out.
Connor McGinnity. Any sense in fading Doc Shivers and just holding the center spot for Jokic on FanDuel?
What's the FanDuel tag? Is it something just
Upgrade to
gnarly?
questionable. You will likely. I agree with you. I think we're going to see Jokic play. By the way, this would be a total disaster if Jokic and Murray and those guys get ruled out, because I'm just assuming Jokic is in, Murray's in, Moran is in, but also the slate locks in 15 minutes. Eric and I, we're doing our post-lock show. We're going to be around for 30 minutes. So guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and stick around for those 30 minutes because they could be important. We don't know what's going to happen with lineups. We don't know what's going to happen with injury news. And you guys are going to want to find out how we are reacting to everything. Also, the tools and data we have on the site. If you guys have not signed up at Stokastic yet, you can get access to them for free for 3 days. Really good way to see what we have behind the paywall. Check out our player projections, our ownership projections, the boom bust tool, our new lineup generator, all kinds of good stuff that's going to help make you money. 3 days for free. If you haven't signed up yet, and click on the link that we have. As for the Jokic question, which I kind of answered indirectly there in terms of saying that we don't know that he's playing. I assume that he is going to. But I'm still prioritizing Harrell over Jokic on FanDuel.
Definitely on FanDuel.
Yes.
Harrell is 53. I will say it's more interesting talking about the difference in the tags on FanDuel. I think Jokic just 10-5. I'm looking at that right, correct?
Yes. So
that's pretty decent.
Let me see what we have. Let me check some of the ownership right now. Let me refresh and see because I'm making
also maybe I'm curious if you agree with me on this, because this is why I'm projecting him, I think, a little bit better than what we have over at the site right now. Nikola Jokic, that is. I got to assume if he and Murray are both limited, that they're not going to just be explicitly sharing the court together the entire time, right? Like, you got to assume that they're going to find ways to get Murray independent of Jokic rather than them having a bunch of minutes overlapping with each other like they would if they were starting and both playing, 36 minutes, like you might expect for Jokic and like 32, 34 for Murray. I would think a logical coach, which Malone, you never know, but Murray and Jokic shouldn't share the court as much as normal.
Kind of yes and no. So here's what I think is going to happen, because there's always some minutes they don't share the court. I don't really think that changes. I think there's just less minutes they play in general.
Okay. I would assume a smart coach who recognizes that you still, I guess you're kind of back to your main core of guys now. That team is just so wonky now because, Jokic has just seen such a drop in usage, as you would expect with Jamal Murray there. But I guess Bones Highland being out, it's not a complete zero, but he was playing such few minutes.
He's questionable. We don't know that.
Yeah, he's not going to play. Stop. He's not going to play today.
All right. Eric has made it. No, I mean, we'll know for sure, hopefully, before the game starts. So who knows?
I am way more confident that he does not play than I am confident Ja Morant plays. And I'm 65%, 70% sure Ja Morant plays today.
I feel more confident that Morant plays. But either way, I understand where you're coming from. Jorge Giacomi wants to know, who are the top 3 pay-up guys on DK? So I am in the process of running my lineups right now. I don't know that I'm going to get to a ton of the high-end guys just because of a lack of value. Give me a couple minutes and I will know for sure. But for you, who's your favorite pay-up options on DraftKings? Or do you think you're not going to be paying the top-end guys as much?
I mean, Devin Booker, if we're talking 9K and above, Devin Booker's it. And he's already the most popular guy up there, but he should be the most popular guy up there. I guess if you're asking me which guy, they both cleared health and safety protocol status for Tuesday uncertain. Okay, interesting. Malone is the worst, the absolute stone cold worst. Just say they're playing if they've gotten out of health and safety protocols. Just say they're playing, you dipshit. But Anthony Davis is going to be a guy that I probably play quite a bit of at 10-5. Again, center, you get without LeBron James out there. I just always find Anthony Davis to be an intriguing guy to get to in tournaments up there. We've seen him go completely nuts in more limited minutes at times here, but the usage is just way up. He's getting to the line, 14 and 15 rebounds the last 2. At 10-5 there, he's right around 20%. I am definitely north of that.
Does this update concern you at all? It's very dumb.
It makes me so mad and uncomfortable. Like, why does he still have a job? He is truly
he's also one of the best coaches in the NBA.
I hate him so much.
I agree that he's annoying, but he's very well liked by the players, and his teams generally tend to. He's
perhaps the least. It's him and Glenn Rivers, 1-2 in some capacity. Okay, just can't stand these guys.
By the way, this is so here's the update. So Jokic and Murray are going to warm up and see how they feel, then make a decision. I have to be honest. I know that's annoying. I think that's reasonable, though.
You're defending him now.
No, I'm not. I don't think this is his decision. I think it's the training staff decision. He's not a doctor. He might be more of a doctor than Glenn Rivers, but I don't think this is his decision to make. I think it's the players and the training staff.
Yeah, Neil, I did make a group. I don't have Harrell and Reed in the same lineups. I could see where it does work out because they're both cheap, but I'm not going to do it. I think they're pretty. I think they're going to be pretty negatively correlated.
Top 3 pay-up options. Booker is 1 for me. I mean, what are we even considering a pay-up option?
80 is definitely 2 for me. I can't imagine a world where it's not him. And then John Morant's 3 for me, by the way. I do think John Morant we could get very, very, very low owned without Desmond Bane. That sounds fun to me.
Does Tobias Harris count as a pay-up option?
Not this sub 8K. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. I just know that I have 33% Tobias Harris. I have 26% John Morant. I have 37% Anthony Davis. And I have 49% Devin Booker. So take those numbers if you want them.
It's Booker for me. I just find it hard to get up to the top guys. It's hard for me.
It's hard, but also I'm playing Korkmaz and you're not, so I can do it, and you probably can't. If the Korkmaz things works out for me, I am in very, very good shape. And there's paths where I can get up to some of these guys, and it's not going to completely nuke me because, once again, there's really no value anymore.
Yeah.
I have 25% Furkan Korkmaz. I have a problem. This is truly going to be a hill that he's going to play 5 minutes tonight, and I'm going to just get nuked on Twitter. I already feel it coming. I already know it. I'm bracing for it. But also, if he plays 20 plus minutes, you have to give me props on this. You can't, even if he puts up like 6 fantasy points, I don't care. If I get 20 minutes out of Furkan Korkmaz that I call out of the clouds, I'm going to be just victory lapping that.
Okay, I'll hear it. If he plays 20 minutes and scores 3 fantasy points, I would love to see you victory lap for Concord.
Okay. You know what I mean, Greg.
Go ahead and victory.
We're gonna go back on vacation. I'm moving to Europe. I'm gonna go live on the land with a goat, make cheeses.
Go ahead and victory lap it. So a couple of reasons why. And by the way, once again, I understand some of your logic there, but one of the things that's an issue for me with him is the hurdles to clear. Is number one, he has to be in the rotation. I don't know that's going to be in the case. He actually has to get significant minutes, which I don't know is going to be the case. And you hit on the other thing there. He also has to actually play well in those minutes. It's not as simple as him just getting on the court. So that's where it's also him not making it to my line. But hey, if he ends up going out there and doing the thing, you're a hero. No doubt, you're a hero.
But shout out Tyler Hero, questionable tomorrow. But I will say, like, he's 3K flat. If he wasn't, this would not be a conversation. I can tell you that flat out. He's sub 3%. He's super low owned. There's just paths where, from a real life perspective, they need shooting on the floor, and there you go. Also, blowout run. I think he probably is a main beneficiary. The one guy that I'm getting more from a value perspective, I didn't really like him earlier in the day, so this is kind of interesting what's happening with my lineups. Keegan Murray's 4,400 on DraftKings. I think he becomes a guy that, from a value perspective, just has to make your way into more lineups now as a result of like no other value.
All right, let's hit on some more of the super chats we got in here. And I don't see the question. So DC, I'll just, he said he left us a super chat and asked about Dennis Schroeder that we didn't hit on. I didn't see that anywhere, but either way, my thoughts on Dennis Schroeder, I am not getting to him today. There's other players I prefer, but Dennis Schroeder, do you have any thoughts? I think that entire Lakers backcourt situation is a mess right now.
Yep, I can't do it. I'm already making one egregious play. I can't make another.
Steve Schuster wants to know best utility play, $7,100 and under.
7,100. Cameron Payne.
7,100.
I can say that off the top of my head. I'm trying to get this.
Yep, that is Cameron Payne for me. DeAndre Ayton's not that far behind though.
No, DeAndre Ayton is a fantastic center play today.
All right, I should probably start getting some of these lineups up.
That's all I'm trying to do right now.
It's hard. It's we got the news. Everything happened so late on this slate. So all right, I've got my lineups built. I'm copying them. Let's answer some questions also. The next one from the Claw 28, Ben Simmons or Jaren Jackson Jr. I prefer Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons is my highest owned player.
Legary and Bridgewater. How I think he means who are the must-haves on DK Cash from the 76ers? I say Tobias Harris, Shake Milton, and DeAnthony Melton. You should have all of them in cash games.
Good call.
Anything else you would add to that, or
a single thing?
Okay. Oh wait, did I didn't say Harrell.
I didn't hear you say Harrell. So
okay.
No.
Milton, Harrell, Melton, Tobias Harris. Yeah, I'd say those four you should have in cash games, especially with the overall lack of value on the slate. So I'll say those 476.
Get in lineups. Get in.
The next super chat. I was pretty sure there was more in here. Jordan, did I miss any super chats or did I get all of them? I don't. Okay, cool. We answered them all. All right, so Eric, we are scrambling to update our lineups here. Is there anything that is appearing in your lineups that we did not talk about during the show that's surprising you?
I only have 15% Furkan Korkmaz now. I want to throw it out there. He's not some major stand that I'm making on today's slate. I have a ton of Paul Reed. I have 45% of him. I'm just going way over the field on him. He's a guy in our boom bust tool too that was really, really standing out earlier. I think if you get Harrell, if there's any kind of an issue with him, again, he could just get played off the floor very, very quickly here. I think blowout run 2 goes Paul Reed's direction. I think there's a lot of outs where he ends up working out. John Morant, that's also going to be a guy that I'm just paying up for here a little bit more. If I'm trying to get away from some Devin Booker, but I'm not trying to get away from Devin Booker. I'm trying to play him in addition to it. But yeah, Ben Simmons, highest owned player on the slate. That's never something you like saying out loud.
Gang Green, Brown, or Bogdanovich on DK. I'm assuming that Jokic and Jamal Murray play. If they don't, that's something that Eric and I are both going to be banging our heads on the on the wall against in the upcoming after lock show. With that in mind, I do not think Bruce Brown is a good play at all. So Bogdanovich between the two. I know, Eric, you've liked yourself some Bogdanovich this year. I assume that is your answer.
I love Bojan Bogdanovich so much. He's hit like 85% on the over of his points prop this season. It's truly like the most print fest thing ever, not to give away the goods behind the premium paywall there for the odd shopper for the premium Discord. But you want to be playing some overs on that, especially now that you don't have Sadiq Bey out there sniping away. Which is just kind of all that happens. He's just been chucking a ton of threes lately.
Next question we have in here from Sam Casseldance. KCP still acceptable about value on DK? No, not if Murray and Jokic are presumed to be playing.
Legitimately, I went from having him be one of my favorite tournament plays to legitimately having 0. So welcome to today's slate.
The Black Mama wants to know, have Murray or Jokic even practiced? I would presume not. They've been in the COVID protocols. I don't know what the rules are.
Do you think they've been alone in a gym together just putting shots up? It's an amazing image.
I mean, it's possible. It depends what we mean by practice. Like, I don't think they've been sitting at home just eating chips for the last week, but have they been in team practices? No, probably not. But it's not like NBA teams are practicing every day over the course of the season anyway. But I'm under the assumption they probably haven't practiced. Next question that we have here is from Matty T55. Booker or Ja straight up in FanDuel for a large field lineup is pretty chalky. If it's just Morant or Booker, I prefer Morant.
Yep, I got to get my lineups in so badly.
Okay, yeah, you sound like my brother when he was a kid and he had to take a shit on the way home from a road trip just now. Got to do it so badly.
Call him out. Send him that clip.
Yeah. Jets World, rank the centers, please, on DK as far as priorities. Harrell, Reed, Clayton, Ayton, Davis. Harrell 1 for me, Ayton 2, Davis 3, Reed 4, Claxton 5.
Sounds good to me.
Jets World wants to know the projections have a half-point difference between Harrell and Reed. Does that scream just play? I think Reed's a really good leverage play. I think Reed is a very good leverage play.
Do you get lineups in? Oh, yeah. I got him in. I got him in. 43% Paul Reed, dear Lord. 18% Furkan Korkmaz was the final number here. Oh, boy. I hate everything I am looking at right now. This will be fun. This is going to be a fun slate to sweat regardless.
I'm curious. I barely know who I played, by the way. I have to look at my, because it was just one of those things where it's just, I'm just getting my lineups and whatever happens ends up happening in them. So
Corey Joseph available to play. Goody. Come on.
Corey Joseph available.
Oh, he was probable. Never mind. That was I was just making sure that was already projected in.
Yeah, so here's something else about Corey Joseph too. Number one, he's really fat now, and he's also really bad. Cool. Yeah, he's really bad.
Who's the guy that you called fat for 2 years?
It's Corey Joseph now, but
okay, who was it before? It was a point guard in the vein of who was it? It was Milwaukee, not Eric Bledsoe. It was somebody else on Milwaukee that you called.
Was it George Hill?
A lot. No, George Hill's never. That dude's a
twig. But I also don't think it was me that called him fat. I think it was somebody else did. I think I played somebody as a value guy, and he was really bad, and people started telling me that he was bad because he was fat, and then I just started calling him fat.
Yeah, people are saying Raymond Felton. No, it was not Raymond Felton. No. Morant will start. That's beautiful to get after lock. I love that. Let's see. Nice. Felton. Right, there's somebody else that you were calling out. I'm trying to remember who it was. I'll think of it before the end of the show. People are just answering people that they think are fat. Not people. There's the answer. Greg R. Ty Lawson. Was that it? No, that wasn't it. When I hear it, I'll know it. It was. Yeah. I'm pretty positive. It's like we've been doing shows together 2 years. It's in that time frame. There's one guy specifically, and I can't think of who it was. And you just called them. You were just like, I can't play this guy as Chuck. He's fat. And I was like, this is not the nice way to talk about a person, Greg. But you're like, no, but it just is what it is. Yeah, everybody's answering who they think is fat in the chat right now. It's not. They're not answering my opinion. They're just like they're just in the chat. They're like Kathy. Jeff Teague. There it is. Yeah. Okay. That's what it is. Jeff Teague. You know what? In my defense, Jeff Teague is fat. Okay. In my defense, if we're just being straight. Let me go to, and I'll update his Wikipedia right now as well while we're talking, because Wikipedia, I know you guys think of it as the almighty source of information, but look, it says that he's 6'3", 189 pounds. Not anymore. He's about to be 6'3", 289 pounds on his Wikipedia page. We're updating that. Come here, I'm going to eat you. You know what's funny though? On one part of his Wikipedia page, it says 195. Another part, it says 189. Another part, it's about to say 395 because I'm about to make some edits. Jeff Teague is fat. Raymond Felton was also fat. Raymond Felton had one of my all-time favorite basketball quotes because he was taking a bunch of heat from the New York media for being fat. When he was getting paid a bunch of money for the Knicks, he had one good year under Mike D'Antoni, and he was bad after that. And he got really upset about it. And he's at a press conference, and he says, listen, he goes, I've been a professional. He goes, I've been in shape 7.5 out of the 9 years I've been in the NBA, and people call me out of shape for that. And he thought it wasn't fair. It was just perfect to me. The fact that he's like, listen, I might have been fat for 1.5 years. It's no reason to call me fat. It kind of is if you're a professional athlete, though. Dude, chat went berserk for that bit. I don't know. Everybody had somebody to say Cartman, and I mean, this is wild. Yeah. People are in chat being like, my ex-girlfriend. It's like, no. All right, let's stay on focus. This is not my opinion. Neil Orfield. Jeff Teague was one of the thinnest players in the league. No, not at the end of his tenure. Or no, who were we just talking about? Jeff Teague. I can't remember. Yeah, Jeff Teague. Yeah, that's exactly who it was. And yes, he got much bigger. Real quick. Same, and I remember. Anyway, to tie this into what we were talking about before, Corey Joseph is fat now. So and he, if you look at Jeff Teague on the Celtics days, that's when he was fat. That's when he was a bad Jeff Teague on the Celtics. Remember, he used to go out there and he would be like, oh, he's a 0.4 fantasy point per minute guy now. That's Corey Joseph. I started Corey Joseph. I played him a bunch of lineups the first time he moved into the starting lineup for the Pistons. I pulled that game up on League Pass. I'm watching it. I knew it was going to be a disaster immediately because of how fat he was. He barely fit on the screen of my iPad. I had to watch on the bigger TV in my house just so we would fit in the frame. I knew it was going to go poorly. Kings starting lineup: Fox, Herter, Barnes, Murray, Sabonis, and the starting lineup
for the Grizzlies is Morant, Conchart, Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Adams. I'm very happy that John Morant is in. I was
Me too.
hoping that would be the case.
I talked about it. I like him a lot. I'm double the field.
Now we just are going to have to sweat this dumb Nuggets news. I swear, if it doesn't go our way.
Dude, this would be cataclysmic would be the right word.
All right. So no new news. I'm kind of curious to see what some of the ownerships actually ended up coming in at. So I'm going to open up the $15 over on DK. But by the way, the game has already started.
What?
Right away? Oh my God. We've got
Claxton, block.
Listen to this. Ben Simmons, 3 assists in the first minute and a half of the game.
Love it. Highest owned player.
Ben Simmons oh my God. Ben Simmons is going nuts. 3 points and a board in 2 minutes for Ben Simmons.
Can you take me higher? Creed, by the way, that was exactly 20 years ago today? 20 years ago? I saw something on Barstool where Creed, that epic NFC championship, or what is it, Thanksgiving performance. It was amazing. It was incredible. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do know that. They performed on... Who's performing at Thanksgiving this year? Do you know?
I have no idea, but I know my parents are at the game because there's a Vikings game. So the Lions always play. So you had Buffalo and Detroit. And then you've got the Vikings playing, I know, as well, which I don't know if I'm excited about anymore. Good Lord. Thank God I was in Europe for that game. I was in Europe for both the best game I can remember as a Vikings fan all year and the worst game as a Vikings fan all year. And I watched very limited of either of them.
8-2 with a negative point differential should be impossible.
-2? Somebody's -2? What? What are you talking about? What? Oh, no, you're talking about -2 with the record that they have? Yeah, but they got waxed by the Eagles. Yeah, but I'm saying the Eagles, this is one of those things. It's just noisy. And yes, you're going to play a lot of games that are close throughout the entire season. Kansas City's had their fair share of ones. They just had one on Sunday, but you win close games. The Vikings, though, always have these games where Kirk Cousins decides to forget how to throw a football, or we just forget to block, and then it's the apocalypse. So, I don't know how much I want to rewatch anything that I saw on Sunday.
So we're about to pull up some bets in a second. So Jordan, queue up Odd Shopper. We're going to look in and see if we can find any bets from the later games. By the way, Paul George has been ruled out for tomorrow, but I don't believe that there was a lineup for that. But the Vikings, how many games would you guess they've won by more than one possession this year? I don't know the answer. I'm looking it up.
I'm going to say 1. Let me just think if I can remember which one it was. It was probably the first game of the season. So the Vikings absolutely walloped Green Bay. That was more than a possession, I believe.
Oh my wait. Kawhi Leonard has an ankle injury now. Kawhi Leonard out tomorrow with an ankle injury.
Oh, great. Welcome. Do we see you guys tomorrow? Kawhi out, Paul George out, Luke Kennard out. Just drop kick me in the face and call me Susan Sarandon. I don't care.
I will gladly do that. By the way, there's actually still a lineup for this game. Oh, great. But I've got because I wasn't logged in. I wasn't ready for it. I'm never going to be able to get this bet in time now. I have to do the whole, because the issue is now, especially because of the whole DK issue with.
Oh yeah. The 2-factor authentication.
Yeah.
This is so I have a conspiracy theory
about, I got it in like a split
I have a conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory. I talked about this with a buddy. Put on the tinfoil hat. I think DraftKings did this on purpose.
Okay, here's what I think happened. I don't think it was on DraftKings because it didn't only happen on DraftKings. It happened on other.
I think this is a very happy accident if it was for DraftKings, because the number of people who now have 2-factor authentication or that had to change passwords and do things differently, where they, again, one of the biggest edges in sports betting is being able to react to news. We've been doing it for years together. You have taught me in the ways of the Force, and you want to get in as fast as humanly possible. But my God, if DraftKings only lost 200, 300K, I got to assume people like you, people like me, people who are constantly reacting to news as fast as humanly possible, that's kind of all in a day's work for them, where if you can weed that out by making people go 2-factor authentication or something of that nature, you are saving yourself money in the long run. So just saying, oh, it was an account hack, almost $300,000. Okay, I feel very bad. They reimbursed all the money for those. And a lot of people had to re-up their security and probably had to make some changes in it, and are probably, nervous it's going to happen to them. So just saying,
Okay.
I think It happened on purpose.
So I'm going to introduce some logic into this situation, which is going to make you wrong. Are you ready for it?
No.
Okay. It did not only happen on DraftKings, it happened on every sports book because it was not DraftKings that got hacked. It was a third-party bet tracking site. So if you guys use it, which I think I would recommend people not use these, by the way, but there are third-party bet tracking sites where you could upload you link all of your DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, whatever accounts you have, you upgrade them. You link them to these bet tracking things, and then it just keeps track of all your bets for you. It was one of those that got hacked into, and that's why it was multiple sites that ended up getting people's stuff.
Look at this. We have people saying nice things about us on Twitter. Willie Jenkins, Eric Lindquist, and Greg Ehrenberg are top-notch content for NBA DFS and greatly appreciated. I hope we can bring logic and joy. You know, we can be funny and make you happy. By the way, Ben Simmons just made both free throws. How loud do you think the building was when he was shooting those?
The other thing, too, is if Ben Simmons plays well in Philly, oh my, how many people are going to be devastated by this that are Sixers fans? Mike Lawrence might not show up to work for a month. He'll be so downtrodden. He's a fake Philly fan. Have you also heard my conspiracy theory about this, that he works for the FBI and he's actually a Buffalo fan? And that he's splitting time between Philadelphia and Buffalo because he's the most unassuming person to work for the FBI ever. Yeah, but also it's just his neighbor told him that it's the FBI, and that's just he just reports to his neighbor what he finds, and he thinks it's the FBI, but it isn't.
People have no idea who we're talking. Oh no, people know Mike.
By
Lawrence.
The way,
awesome, yeah.
No offense to Jordan, but Mike produced the most fun produced show I've ever done on Saturday. Where the post-lock show that I was doing with Lamarca, it was a smaller slate, and we didn't really have that much news going on. We did some bet stuff, and then afterwards we were talking about some stuff that was ongoing in terms of sports and some, sports gossip, like the Mike Pereira thing that happened while you were gone.
Yeah.
Mike was so quick. Everything we talked about, he instantly was pulling the clips from Twitter, and they were up on screen. It was really fantastic. But anyway,
it's wild to see producers take pride in their job and go the extra mile and work just a little bit harder to make the show quality just a little bit better. It's amazing when you see people really take pride in their work like that.
I fucked up.
I can't even see you right now. You have disappeared into the abyss, and thank God for it.
I should have made a meme or a GIF of you today. I kind of dropped the ball on that.
That is true. You should have. There should have been some more Paris, France. A Paris, Eric.
Paris Saint-Germain.
Let's look for some bets from the later games. And by the way, I assume these odds have moved so much. I don't even know if there are lines really up for some of these later games, just considering the Nuggets injury situation right now. But I'm going to go to Odd Chopper and let's see if anything really stands out to us. I know for me, let me see what is the Grizzlies money line now? -150. I bet them as underdogs earlier in the day when I thought Morant was going to play. -150, -3, I'd stay away. I have them at plus money and +2.
I basically, so again, I do my Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks over on the Odd Shopper channel every single night. Break down the next day's games, give you guys some bets. It's good times. Come hang out there, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell over at Odd Shopper. But I talked about Sacramento. I thought that it was like really the only other bet outside of Brooklyn, -7. It ended up moving up a little bit, so got a tiny bit of value there. Ben Simmons, by the way, just going completely nuts. It's so beautiful. But I thought that getting to Sacramento +1.5 made some sense. But then Ja Morant, as soon as that news came out, this line is as efficient as it gets at its current iteration. It's just to stay away. But if you got Memphis as plus money as dogs in this spot, yay you won the day.
Yeah, so Ben Simmons, first 5 minutes of the game now, 4 points and 4 assists.
Let's go.
Oh my God, those Sixers fans' tears, they taste so good. Oh my God, it's magic. Magic. Let's look at some of the props and see if there's anything of value left from the later slate of games that are yet to start. Eric, is there anything on the board that is standing out to you?
So I Bojan Bogdanovic, I get it. I know that he's not somebody that is ever going to project all that well here at Odd Shopper. I have my reasons though. Here you go. Bojan Bogdanovic, absent Cade Cunningham, they need shooting, and he can get by both in terms of efficiency, and now I think he's going to get a usage bump as well. Without Saddiq Bey out there on the wing, you get, just these dead minutes from Isaiah Livers. You get Hamidou Diallo, back in his OKC days, did see a little bit more usage, but hasn't really shown itself here in Detroit. He's the best shooter on the floor, shooting north of 50% from the field now on the season, 41.1% from three. You're getting 19.5 on all of these numbers constantly. He's gone up over that number now 3 straight. I was betting him when I was in Europe. He paid for part of my trip. I love him so much. I'm telling you, Bojan Bogdanovic, start believing into this dude. Yeah, it's a 3-15 basketball team, and eventually his minutes are probably going to go down, or he's just going to get traded as a veteran at the deadline. But for right now, you don't have Saddiq Bey. You don't have Cade Cunningham. And Jaden Ivey is a better distributor than both of them currently. He's leading the team in assists per game. Give me some Bojan Bogdanovic.
So, by the way, I could get behind it. I know this has just been a guy for you. Bojan Bogdanovic.
Love him.
You've been playing this guy, rinse and repeat. So the points prop has gone up from what it was earlier. Because if I'm not mistaken, you were way ahead of the curve on Bojan. What was it when you first started betting? 14.5?
16.5, 15.5, 16.5 at the beginning of the season. He's only missed 3 times for me all season when I've bet him. I've bet him probably almost every single game I've bet him over the course of this 18-game beginning of the season. He's failed me 3 times. I have my bet tracker. I've gone 12-3 betting Bojan Bogdanovic over points props.
Yeah, and if you look at his scoring log this year, it's been very, very consistent. Most recent games, 21, 20, 26, 18, 28, 25. Then before that, you had the game against Boston, which was a blowout. He still put up 17. But yeah, overall for the year, he's scored, 16 or more points in all but 3 games, and 2 of them were blowouts. So it's been one of the more consistent scorers out there. And Eric was ahead of the curve there.
I have my moments.
Little Ben Simmons update, by the way.
How about a Montrezl Harrell update?
Really going nuts right now?
Montrezl Harrell.
Montrezl Harrell, the number 1 fantasy scorer on the slate right now. He is doing it all for the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm surprised he wasn't popular today. He's popular. I thought he was going to be chalk. I thought he was going to be crazy chalk.
Boss bro, rip Bojan now. What are you talking about? I'm literally 80% on this dude. Do you know how hard that is in sports betting to get that kind of a return on an individual? He could put up 0 points tonight and for the next week, and I would still be very, very profitable on him on the season. Like, get out of here with your weak sauce. But also, yes, the Trez dispenser, if you will. Trezl Mainezel. This guy is just nuking it.
Considering the lack of value we had on the slate, 27% owned for him in the $15 on DK. I thought this was going to be like a 40 to 50% owned guy.
Yeah, people just didn't want to do it. How much did I end up with? Because I know I had a lot. Yeah, definitely surprised that he didn't end up being more 42%. So that's all right. I didn't play him in a couple of these, but yeah, no, he was a great play. He was 4,500. I thought he was one of the best sources of value that we had. We didn't have any value. He's the only value really outside of Ben Simmons, who, still a smash. I like Paul Reed still. I obviously played a lot more of Paul. Well, not a lot more. I played 6% more Paul Reed than I did Montrez, but one of the two is in almost every single one of my lineups.
Eric Traub, it's nice to have you back, Eric. We missed you while you were gone.
I see what you did there.
Your guy, Eric Traub.
Team Eric,
all day. Is there what was the start time for the Denver game?
I don't know, but are you just getting the uncomfortable feelies in your tummies like I am?
I honestly don't know if they're going to. I've been assuming they were. The last update made me unsure though, because I think it's totally reasonable for them to go out there and just see how they play, how they feel while they're warming up.
Here's what we do. I think this is the best way to approach it. So Jokic and Murray, do you really want to play them anyway?
No.
Take them out, and I think you kind of have like an allotted 25% of the other guys, and then you get to as much as you possibly can if they get ruled out.
You're about to be very excited by something. First bench substitution. Furkan Korkmaz comes in for the Philadelphia 76ers and hits a 3 within 5 seconds of being on the court. let's see. What do we think his ownership is in the $15 on D?
I Am a Golden God. Name that movie.
Eric's Fantasy. Okay, players.
Here's the thing. I just went and put my neck out on the line for Furkan Korkmaz on a live show, and literally, you did not hear. There's no way anybody else on planet Earth talked about him on any show, anywhere, period, in the industry. God, I feel good.
What do you think his ownership is?
0.5%.
22. No, I'm kidding you. He's 4% on the 15.
Oh, okay.
I
you really missed me. I know you did. Oh, dude,
I should have not even corrected it and just made you think that the rest of the show.
I had to have talked. There's no way that he would have ended up 4% if I didn't talk about him on the show. This is the first time I've ever felt like maybe I had an impact in the world.
I don't know if you were on camera when you had that reaction right now, but I've never actually seen somebody's just their stomach fall on their face like it did for you when I gave you the fake ownership on Furkan Korkmaz.
Furkan Korkmaz, 3 points and an assist. I'm telling you, Furkan Korkmaz season, God, this feels good right now. Please go. 3.5. Again, if you at 3K give me 18 from him, I'm willing to take it on a 4-game slate and see where that gets me because of the amount of spend-up options. But legitimately, I thought he had 25-minute upside. I've just had this feeling in my left knee, where I was like, this guy's going to play a lot more than we think, because we've seen it routinely in the last 2 years where Doc Rivers just plays him a lot in these kind of spots. He's like a spot starter at times. Now, he didn't start, so it was even more uncomfortable. But my God, let's go.
Steve Buzzard saying the 4% lineups, just Eric. Super chat from Anthony Davis. Talk
just
your
getting
shit,
body
Eric.
bagged by CFO.
Shit.
That's
Anthony
great.
Davis is giving you full reign here. He left us a $25 super chat. Talk your shit, Eric. Eric, tell the audience how great you are.
I'm great. I don't know. Now I'm uncomfortable. I was making it a bit earlier. Like it was Almost Famous, one of the greatest movies of all time. But yes, it's the super chat. Talk my shit. It's like that Trey Murphy call to one slate. That Trey Murphy call is still so legendary. He was what? He was probably similar, 4%, 3%. Korkmaz missed a layup. Damn it. Thought he was just going to smash here. But yes, I'm telling you guys, let's go. First guy off the bench. First guy. That's wild.
By the way, if he has a big game, I'm going to tell you guys, Eric with the call of the year to this point.
Again, there aren't many times that something from the absolute clouds is going to come out of my mouth on these shows, because we have the best project. The thing about this play, it's not something that you can just look at Fantasy Cruncher and then look at our projections and see what happens. Like, this is just a flat out looking at trends in a basketball team and seeing what happens routinely. So there was at least logic. Regardless of how this works out, I feel much more comfortable knowing that he, one, checked into the basketball game, and two, first guy off the bench, that I did not expect.
Bull Rat 14. You're wrong, Eric. They talked about him in the last show.
Did they really?
Do we think he stole information? I bet.
No way.
Now I know why Eric. Now it's come to me. This was Adam's take that Eric siphoned.
No,
Yes.
I can prove that it's not, because I literally, so again, my clock is just so messed up. I saw the process show this morning with our boy Josh Engleman. I was on my couch. I ended up watching some of the Argentina and Saudi Arabia game, absolute madness. But it was like 2-3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, so I went out on the couch. So I didn't wake up my wife and dog, but ended up watching the process show for a little bit. And I was just like, I just get that weird. This take formulated early in the morning when I was just like, I get this weird feeling Furkan Korkmaz is going to play a lot more minutes than we think, because I think Josh had him for like 5 or 6 minutes or something at the time. So pretty wild situation we've got here. This slate is wild.
Yeah, I'm crediting Adam. Super chat from Jorge Giacomi.
Stop it.
Welcome back, Golden Boy. Greg was literally so depressed you could see it in the shows. I really wasn't. I enjoy it. By the way, I did really fun shows with Matt Lamarck. It was all different people. I did a show. We got Laffy on Live Before Lock in your absence.
Yeah, that's amazing. That must have been fun.
Laffy did a Live Before Lock. I did a couple shows with Lamarca. I did shows with EMAC. Who else? Oh, I did a show with Terry. I think that's everybody. I think that's you know what I forgot? Adam even did a live before lock while you were gone. Adam did a live before lock with me.
Did he really?
Not only did Adam do a live before lock with me, he came in third in the $15 that night.
So that's wild.
Yeah.
I'm Adam. Oh, I can't do live before locks. Oh, it doesn't help me.
He was definitely apprehensive about it right before the show started. He was like, I can't believe I did this. This was a really dumb idea. I can't believe I agreed to it. And then right before lock, it was one of those ones. It was I don't presume that you were following all the basketball games while you were in.
I followed a lot more than you would think because you would wake up and basketball would be on it. Okay, yeah.
That was actually the best slate you were gone because Keldon Johnson was supposed to be super chalk. Yeah. And then what happened was 5 minutes before the slate started, the starting lineup came out and he wasn't in it. So it was immediately one of those things like, okay, Keldon Johnson isn't playing today. He was still fairly popular. And we were pivoting off to a bunch of value plays from the
Those
Spurs
are the best.
Yeah. So anyway, he did that show with me that day. And everything we talked about was irrelevant for 56 minutes. And then the final 4 minutes we swapped. And Adam ended up coming in third in the $15 that day.
That's great. See, that makes me feel better to know that I didn't completely ruin Adam's life while I was gone. Actually, no, I wish I had. That would have been awesome, but whatever.
By the way, right now, the Sixers are up 33-25.
Absurd.
You know what happened to the Nets? They took Simmons off the court and everything started to go to shit because the Nets bench, we've got Joe Harris has played 4 minutes and the Nets are -8 in the minutes he's been on the court. Markieff Morris has been on the court for 3 minutes and the Nets have been outscored by 7 during the time he's been there.
Seems bad.
Yeah, it hasn't gone well. The Sixers bench is just smashing the Nets bench right now. Part of that is due to your guy Furkan Korkmaz. Also, George Niang is 5 points off the bench. Paul Reed, 2 points, a board, and a steal. You know what I have immediate regrets about now? Not playing lineups with Montrezl Harrell and Paul Reed together.
Yeah, see, that I'm feeling pretty dumb about that. I almost never do that kind of stuff, especially on short slates, especially when they're both cheap. But it was one of those things I didn't expect Harrell to go out and put up what did he get in his first rotation? 6 and 4. That's just stupid. Like,
yeah, so 6 and 4 for him, and then we've got B-ball Paul in 3 minutes is 2 points, a rebound, a steal, and a block.
I have one of the two in every lineup. That seems good. I'll live with it.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's been a good start for all the value guys for the Sixers are off to a really good start. We've got Shake Milton is 7 points.
Rebound Korkmaz.
What was that?
Rebound 3-1-1 now. Let's go, my boy.
Yeah, Korkmaz off to. And if you played anybody from the Sixers who was any of the cheap guys, they're doing well right now. Just by default, all of them are doing well.
Absolutely wild, man. Absolutely wild. And I just sold a Rainmaker in the middle, like one of my more expensive Rainmakers while we were on the show. It's been a good day. It's been a good day.
Are you playing in the Millie Maker on Thursday?
So I'm trying to decide. I ended up buying 30 packs and I'm trying to decide what to do because I feel like they're going to get close to selling out tomorrow. Maybe not. Probably, throw some in together, but you get like free cards when you get the packs or whatever, and then you could just turn around and sell them. So I don't know. Maybe I just sell the packs. I'm trying to decide what I want to do with it.
Can you sell the packs?
Yeah, you can sell the packs, but you're still going to get airdrop the cards. So like you could buy the packs and get airdrop cards.
I didn't know if these packs could be resold or not.
They definitely can. And people are reselling them for a little bit cheaper because they're thinking the same thing I am, where you could probably get you could get airdrop some cards.
So here's because I was considering if there's overlay in that contest, if I want to play it. But the issue is the cards, you need to get players just for the Thursday games, and they've got cards. It seems dumb to me.
See, it's not dumb if you're the difficulty of it is figuring out what you're going to get away from the optimal. Like you can only play one of the stars, and
you could
CD
open
Lamb
up
is
packs. You open up packs. You don't have to get players from the Thursday game. You can get players from any games. You're guaranteed
to get one from the Thursday games. That's a sweater card or something like or not a sweater card. That's for the December one. You get the flannel. Is that what it is? For the Thursday game, you're guaranteed to get one from it. It's just a question of if it's a core or a rare, and then you get another one that doesn't really have any correlation to the contest.
Yeah. So you need some. So you're looking for the card that's dressed like Neil. Right?
Paul Bunyan, Paul Bunyan coming in with his Babe the Blue Ox. Good stuff.
Super chat from Jorge Giacomi. Last question for my late swap. Ja or Booker? for a single entry large field GPP paired with Aaron and Bridges. So I prefer, if this is just straight up and you have the salary for it, I prefer Morant to Booker.
I do too, because I think he's just going to end up a lot lower owned, like triple low owned.
That is going to do it for us today. People who are not familiar with the DK Rainmakers have no clue what the hell we were just talking about. DK Rainmakers,
let it go.
NFT football game that has kind of been a disaster this year. But we are at the end of the show today. If you guys did not do it yet, do us a favor, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be glued to the news. We still have to figure out whether Jokic and Jamal Murray are going to play
Jokic
tonight,
expected to play. Jokic expected to play.
Oh, there we go. All right, so quick update here. Sorry, Jordan, but we can't end right now. Jokic is expected to play. Safe to assume that means Jamal Murray is playing also. And what are you going to do with this news?
You're just going to play nobody from Denver outside of maybe a share or two of Nikola Jokic.
Okay. That is going to do it for us today. This is the real sign off. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Once again, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck, and hopefully the injuries go our way later.